Something old, something new, something borrowed, something new. I'm the old, he's the new. Watching you.
Hello, how are you?
Something old, something new.
Since they wanted to demonize me.
I'm the old, he's the new. Watching you, got me feeling.
But the reality is, both the Seelie and the Unseelie answer to me. They listen and they are respectful. The dark brown falls into line, where they are easy to vanquish. And when nasty people try to call on dark energies at all, let alone send to others, I send them back with instruction not to feed on anybody but the person who called them. Uno reverse. Checkmate. Peasantry. Run.
Something old, something new, something borrowed, something new. I'm the old, he's the new. Watching you, got me feeling. Something old, something new, something borrowed. Watching you, got me feeling. Something old, something new, something borrowed. Watching you, got me feeling.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Business moves fast.
Yes, my love. Oh, there's something playing. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that was still going. Those are prayers in the background. If you heard that, that's what that was. Because I am a God person. Oh, they're mad.
Therapy.
It's funny. Oh, you need therapy, eh? Commercial's still running. How's everybody? I fucking hate her. She's right. Aw. Aw. Thank you. You're having a rough go. Let's see if we can work some things out. Yeah, let's smoke. Let me pull this up, Tom.
Tell me what have you done? They ask me what I'm waiting for. The night is only just begun. When you turn your back on me, I make that my history. The more I learn, the less I bleed. Till the lights go out, I'll sing. I wouldn't go. When the stars always go touch the sky, till the lights go out on me, till I write my symphony. Dark is your light when I'm sideways.
What's up, guys?
Nights and I make my cloud. They should keep the bullet ready if the time shake. I'm so tired of breaking it down. I'm saying, oh my God, tell me what have you done? Just begun. History. The more I learn, the less I feel. Till the lights go out, I'll sing. I wouldn't go high. When the stars always go touch the sky. Till the lights go out,
That's it then. There's a lot of people having a rough go. I just flow with it. Same, mate. Do what you can. Do what you can. Turn your back on me. Severity.
Till the lights go out, I'll see it. I put it on. When the stars always go touch the sky. Till the lights go out on me. Till I write my symphony.
They don't even make this lippy anymore. I don't know where to find a new one. I'm almost out of it. It's discontinued. I should probably just go to a store and have them color match it, yeah? That would work. Probably. Theoretically speaking. Oh no, I would not buy makeup or skincare off of eBay. Absolutely not. You don't know what you're selling. People put fake products out on there. And they'll even go so far. Now as to put some kind of fake, you don't know what's in the packaging, but they'll take a real product and they'll copy the packaging and then put it through a printer to make fake labels that look like the real product, and then they'll put the fake label that's made to look like a real label on a bottle full of whatever they put in there, but they'll package it as whatever they're claiming is on the label. So let's say it's like, I just heard L'Oreal. Let's say you think you're buying something that's L'Oreal. It's not L'Oreal. They'll print L'Oreal on the packaging. It could be some poisonous chemical in the bottle, but they'll try to copy a real brand's packaging. So you'll buy their garbage thinking that you know what you're getting. Do not do that. Same thing with supplements. You have to be super careful. I'm partner in a biotech company, and pretty regular. We actually have a whole legal team specifically that goes and gets these taken down off the internet, because our company went on, I think it was Amazon, and bought a bunch of the supplements that people were claiming to sell, saying that they were ours, and we sent them to a lab for testing. That it was not our product. They pressed a bunch of shit into a pill form to look like ours, but you could even tell by looking at it, it was off for the most part. And the testing showed that not only were there ingredients in there that were not supposed to be in there, but the quantity was off, meaning the dosage was off. It's not our product. It's fake. So be careful. Be careful. Cheers. It's dangerous. We triple test all of our products for heavy metal, lead, mold, contaminants, anything. And we also source each ingredient from its origin. So turmeric from India, green tea from Asia, etc. Making sure that credit goes where it's due, first of all, and that the quality control's there. As far as the fish supplements go, we have fish oil supplements as well. We keep such close track of those that if there were ever to be, God forbid, a problem with a bottle, or I don't know, like a random audit or something, we could take the serial number off of the bottle and go back in the system, and based on the bottle, the single bottle with a 30-day amount of supplements in it, we can tell you exactly when the fish in that bottle were fished and on what boat and in what location. That is how close the quality control is, and I love it. What do I sell? That's kind of a loaded question. It's not really what do I sell, it's I educate. People want to buy things, they can. Some people want to become educators, they can. But the main flagship product is an NRF2 activator, which reduces oxidative stress being linked to cellular aging and damage. But the reality is all diseased states of the body are linked to cellular aging. When your car rusts, that's oxidative stress. The reason your cats and dogs get old and die 7 times roughly faster than humans, they've got 7 times more oxidative stress. So if you slow that down and you reduce that, you can expand the life cycle. In this particular products will reduce oxidative stress by about 40% on average in 30 days, which is unheard of, astronomically speaking, or about 70% in 120 days. And it will bring your T-bar levels or your oxidative stress levels to that of an 18-year-old or a newborn, really, under 18. And so let's say your average human's lifespan is about 100 years, right? If this is reducing oxidative stress by 70% in 3 to 4 months, which it is scientifically, and let's say just cap it at 100 years average life cycle, 70% of that would leave 30. I know I sound dramatic, but I guess I'm trying to say. There, it just caught me. Electrons, protons, and neutrons. Yeah, it's a lot more to it than that, though. Glutathione plays a big part. And superoxide dismutase also plays a big part. Hi, baby. So back to the math, right? If your average human lifespan is about 100 years-ish, we'll just say 100 years, and this is reducing cellular aging by 70%, that could give you another, like 10 years on your life, on a 100-year life. Which is pretty impressive when it was unheard of before now. Hello. Same thing with neuron regeneration. Scientists, doctors used to think that if people got brain damage or injuries of some kind, that was it. Your neurons died. If you had cells that were damaged, they were dead. But that is not true. You can't get the old ones back, but you can rebuild new ones on top of the places that the old ones died. So imagine that you've got 2 sections of your brain.
Yeah, we thought so. That's why.
And they're trying to communicate with each other back and forth. But the bridge or the line of communication has been blown up between them. So you've got a piece of brain that wants to tell the other piece of brain over here, other side of your brain, something else. But the telephone wire has been cut. The bridge of communication has been cut. So you could stand on one side of the bridge and the other person can stand on the other side of the bridge and try to yell, but it's too far for them to hear properly. and try to talk into the telephone line and have the other person listen into the other end of the line, but it doesn't matter if somebody's cut and severed the connection in the middle. So what this does is, I mean, they've cut the line's dead, right? They've destroyed the bridge, that bridge is gone. But it doesn't mean you can't build a new one on top of it or in a similar location to replace the damage that was done. There are tools and mechanisms. Nootropics can help, but also EMDR and other things like that. But we know no scientifically can affect that. Science is cool. I love my regulars. Love the level of quality control. It's very impressive. I was very impressed. Unhappy hour. I think I need something else. Somebody's mad. Let's do some Skeller. So I've been troubleshooting the little problematic things. Those will be sorted out pretty quickly. And I've also been picking up, side note, something about these karmic energies. Earlier today, I picked it up. And there was this delusion that one of them had where they think, oh, okay, well, she has to wait for 3 months before certain things are finished. And I've got 3 months to try to turn things back around in my favor or try to cause problems. Or no, that's not, it's a done deal. I already did what I needed to do. It's just waiting for the last piece to move through. But my hands are off of it at that point. I turned it in. It's just being processed. So it might take 3 months for it to be processed, but anything that they do now in the meantime isn't going to change that. It's already done. The only thing it's going to do is show more of a pattern that they're trying to cause problems to create confusion for more of a cover-up. And because it's more harassment and an attempt to destroy evidence or obfuscate, right? Obstruction of justice, it's called in the court of law. There'll be a more legal penalty for trying to do damage and harassment. What it is, thank you, is damage control. They're trying to do damage control, like PR. Like if a celebrity gets into some trouble and then their representation tries to spin a cover story so it's not as bad onto the public. No, you already know what you've done. Okay? Not a celebrity necessarily per se, but anybody, any criminal trying to cover something up, whether it's a lawyer or a PR team. In this case, we have some loser trying to recruit children to do her dirty work for her. Can't relate. Next. I heard that somebody said, oh, so she thought she'd spend the next 3 months retaliating. Yeah, apparently, as if that would change anything. It won't. We'll get her in more trouble, though, because she's being watched while she does it. Yes, having some technical issues, but I'm on the case. I got it. On both sides. I told you there was a technology side of things to shift and adjust. And then there was also, meaning device-wise, and then also criminal side, dealing with the criminals who caused the device problems in the first place. So both aspects are being addressed. It's just a matter of timing. And most of it I'm being called to be quiet about right now. Cheers. Love you guys. I don't know who Alex is. That's Goddess. Hi, Elijah. I have many names. They don't call me the Goddess of 10,000 names for nothing. But sometimes they call me Alex. Empress Alex. And the goddess's name is one of many. You know, it's funny that, speaking of, the timing of that was impeccable, because when I went to speak to somebody about handling the technology side of things today, he asked for my name and I told him my full name, and then he responded by calling me Alex, to which he immediately apologized for, because he recalled that that's not the name that I told him. But he explained that his boss's name is Alexis and he calls her Alex. So in his brain, it just came out. I'm like, well, it's not a problem because that's also a nickname for me. So we had a giggle about it. It's good vibe. The timing was impeccable. I was just telling you about that. Yeah, and then you did it too in the comments. Face paint, actually, I was getting ready to pull that out in a bit, but not quite yet. You know what I noticed? And I waited. I saved it for you. I saw that Danielle Kirsty has a new video out. What was it about? I forgot off the cuff, but the title. I saw the title. I'm like, oh, wow, that parallels with a lot of the stuff that we've been dealing with here. What was it again? Hold on. I pulled it up because we're going to go through it. Oh, an open marriage. So there's somebody who's very like sex driven, toxic in a toxic way, open marriage, very messy. It says jealous does the unthinkable. Open marriage leads is very messy when sex fueled wife gets jealous and does the unthinkable. So as far as the hacking and the stalking, mind you, speaking of, you got Eve and Eden over here and Cam and Adam Merchant who fell. Little rat. But he was into polygamy, group sex, joined a little cult coven, black magic shenanigan, and was mad that I wouldn't be a part of that. I am not an option. I am the only. I am the goddess. I am the empress. Compete with who? That's why you lost. And I do see you, High Priestess. Yeah. Didn't work out for you the way you thought it would, bucko, did it? And guess what? I don't have to do spells on my cats to get them to like me. The shut up spell. I'm not going to shut up. I wish you'd be quiet. Why? So you don't get in trouble for the things you've been doing? Fuck off. Stay seated. Run. I'll tell you to run, really, but it's kind of a joke at this point because you don't have anywhere to go. You're also being clocked. Not if I put a bullet in your brain first. You don't think I've reported that? If anything happens to me, guess where they're going to look first? And I've reported all of you. As a group. You'll all go down together. Stay away from me and my property. Cheers. Is it really? He used to tell me that I reminded him of the Morrigan. For one. Hey, Guardian, what's up? I love you guys. Yeah, they're super threatened by you, by the way. All of you. Super threatened. Insecure, intimidated. Like, why do they get to sit with her, but I can't? Why are they so special? But, yeah, no. Oh, and mind you, because dark people target groups of light workers that way. Anybody they can't manipulate or get on their side. I did get a vision of this in the shower this morning, and then I realized I had it out. I've had it sitting out here for like a week or two because the angels told me a few weeks ago I would need it, but I haven't till today. So let's see. Psychic protection. I got a vision of a reading to see what specifically they're trying to throw magic at, or even just nasty energy, jealousy, evil eye, negative intent, ill will thoughts. Even if it's not spell work, it's just dark projections or intent. And so I'll do some Reiki to counter it. And also definitely some financial and abundance Reiki, because I know they've been really trying to block two things mainly. Well, really three. Well, no, I'm picking up four. Family, health, love, money. Big time. Big time. Also, they're angry at people's beauty. I've been, one of the karmics trying to compete with and copying me was in despair today, realizing they can't. And why do you have to be so smart and beautiful? You're so good at all these things. Like they feel like they can't keep up or compete, and they can't. That's why they shouldn't have tried. Like I said, you're trying to compete with me. You think you're better. You think you're the best. I'm coming up off of rock bottom that I didn't put myself in. So how great are you, really? If I'm getting back off my feet and you're claiming that you're top dog. Hey, down there, what's up? Big dogs. You can't hang that. Roof. Silly goose. Psychic protection. Study, right. Tried to study me thinking they could copy me. No. You want to try to be me? You know how I became me? I worked directly with the divine. God didn't tell me to copy people to be where I am. That's not going to bring you success. Study. You failed that one, honey. Fork in the road and you went the wrong way. Energy. Right? Energy vampires. No. Anything else? Oh, also, the high school bullies brigade was stalking again. I picked it up yesterday, but they couldn't help it and accidentally left evidence on my YouTube as to the fact that they were doing that today. What's up, bitch? You fat ass ugly hoe. Great big giant head, but no brains inside there. Eh? Good cheer. Right. Trying to suck the joy out of everything. Bitch, please. Romance. I told you. And beauty. What did I tell you? I know you, you jealous bitch, and I don't need cards to know. But there's your confirmation. I added some pictures to the book for you. Damn, she's good. Yeah, I know about you too, vampire. Draconic. I've been picking up your energy, you little lurky bitch. I see you. Stay off my feed. You don't want to drag this one back up again. Damn, she's good. Stay seated, you fake ass. You're not a reader. You're a fraud. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. Energy vampire. Look, told you. Destiny. Trying to harvest and swap destiny. Don't do it. Confidence. Right. You think, well, she's confident in being who she is and who God told her and taught her and trained her step by step, battle by battle, challenge by challenge, blood, sweat, and tear by blood, sweat, and tear to be. Maybe if I try to copy the external appearance of who I think she is on the outside, despite the fact that I really don't know who she is or what she's been through on the inside, and I couldn't even fathom walking in her shoes for a step, let alone a mile. Maybe I can be confident too, but you're not, though. I'm confident because I'm being real. You're still wearing a mask. You're not confident. You're not confident in who you are, which is why you're trying to dress, act, talk, walk, be like me. But if you were confident, you wouldn't try to pretend to be somebody else, and you're still not confident. Even behind the mask, you can change the mask and try to put on my face if you want, but you're still you behind it. That's why you're still unhappy, you unhappy, miserable bitch. Jealous Karens. Yeah. Gonna need to watch this back with a rap beat behind it. You know what? I should just lay a diss track. Somebody put me in a studio. I've heard that before. Confidence. Sensuality. That's bitch. Inspiration, right? Isis. Little bit like Cleopatra. So baby, bow down to me. Inspiration. And they were. It started out as inspiration. They thought, oh, I like that. That's cool. I think she's comfortable in being who she is. Maybe I'll be comfortable if I copy her. No, you're still not. You wouldn't compete if you were, and you wouldn't keep competing if you were. You're still not. Compete for what? I'm not going to compete with you for me. You're trying to compete. I don't do that. We're still not the same. You're still wearing a mask. Inspiration. That's Isis and Osiris. It's giving Freya and Odin also. The muse, I heard. Hello. They have no idea that in the end their jealousy will eat them alive from the inside. And it's not even just the inside. It manifests outward. Their lives are falling apart. In some cases, it's their health and their mental. That wasn't already degraded or degrading anyway. Now it is. Also, when you send black magic out at people, especially when you're already like on the edge of being off the rocker or a bit loopy to begin with, it will throw you into psychosis. Don't do it. I did warn you. Let me have a break for a minute. This is a beautiful song. I love Odessa. In fact, I think I should switch the channel to Odessa. They wanted to disturb people's peace and keep them from moving on. Okay, so they wanted to try to hold people back, cause extra problems and burdens, to drag out timelines, to make closing out cycles take longer, or start up a new cycle, or restart a cycle after you just closed it, to try to hold you back from moving into true love, from moving forward away from them, from having more success or success in general in business, even simply just being able to focus on those things because you're so busy focused on trying to protect yourself from their barrage of bullshit. No, that is illegal. And those are damages also you can sue for. And I will. Hurt. Not if I sue you first, bitch, you're delusional. You're delusional. That is not the way you want to go. That is what is getting George Clinton Eisworth put in prison. Don't do it. Okay? Oh, people haven't believed your victim story. Well, maybe if I steal it and tell it first and claim it as my own, I can get a bunch of people to believe me and they'll bully you and then I'll win. Except for when all of that crumbles in the end and people realize what you did from the jump. You see, he thought he got away with that, for like 10 years? Yeah, but he's about to go to prison forever. You don't want to do that. Nobody ever ended up in a better position by doing me dirty. Not in the end. They think they get away with it for a while, and then sometimes God lets them get away with it for a little while. I was bait, and they failed the test. And while they think they're getting away with things, they're actually being monitored. They're being scored as they go. They're generating more negative karma with everything they think they get away with. And when it finally slaps them, sometimes they can't survive it. Especially those who try to send death magic or wishes of ill harm towards others. Passion. And you see also they saw the very soft, confused it with passive, also version of me, who they thought would just let things slide. And typically speaking, I just know that a lot of people aren't worth the time and energy. They're trash. Spooked them when I clocked that shit, though. Courage. Right, I didn't expect that. I thought I was a pushover who could be bullied. Bitch, please, I was biding my time. You done goofed and you picked the wrong target to boot. Proud of yourself now? I would be so devastated if I were you. It's a good thing I'm not, but that was a personal choice. And now it's your personal pickle. Toodles. Quaking in your boots now, aren't you? I've been picking that up. Shook it to the core. Why? Because you couldn't stop love. Not my self-love and not the love that manifests outward. Next. I can certainly speak for myself on that, but I also know that I have a collective of people who will resonate with some of this. Wow, these just got stuck. Health. They didn't want people to know what they were doing. Knowledge and divine guidance. But God said, next. Prosperity, I told you. Money is coming too. Success. You couldn't stop shit, bitch. Yes, I can. Right? No, you couldn't. Yeah, see, they're trying to argue. You couldn't stop shit, bitch. Karmic says, yes, I could. And the holy team says, no, you couldn't. And the cat says, fuck off. My baby. 3722 precisely. I heard that. That was a good reading. Thank you. You like that? You're welcome. I love you guys. Let's do some Reiki too. I got you. Kitty, how would you like your karmics deceased? Yeah, rare, right fresh off the grill. I'm glad. Yay for giggles. Water is so good. Oh, you know what's hilarious? I laughed so hard. I've been laughing at this. When I got tagged in nasty little harassment comments a day or so ago, one of the chief complaints was, she dances around in a skirt and a top, and she dances around in a dress, and so you're complaining that the dancer is dancing. Cool. Okay, got it. Maybe you shouldn't be here then. Seeing someone in their natural habitat doing what comes natural to them is bothersome to you. You don't belong here, bitch. Are you good? Doesn't seem like it. I'm over it.
2 weeks later starts stirring the pot because she was in fact not over it. Are you good though? Oh wait, one more thing.
One more thing, because I got more harassment comments today. But like I said, if you listen, they tell on themselves. Yeah? We've established this. So today, one of the child accounts, you know, right where that comes from, left me some comments and said, "Do you know why her books are 18 plus?" as an argument. Even though that was not true. We all know the books were listed for 13-year-olds until a few months ago, like December, when she tried to scrub it and erase that part off Amazon, right? We saw her double down on it for like a whole year. But then when I posted the whistleblowing clip of her saying, "Well, it's not like I'm asking these kids, come on, kids, into my live feed." I remember she was stream sniping my feed, said that in her live, and then tried to delete it off the internet. Well, I reposted it and I paired it with her advertisement to children, where she was selling my stolen name, artwork, story, etc., which showed that she was lying and showed a contradiction. And she, on December 14th, or after December 14th, when I posted that on December 14th, 2025, went and took it off Amazon. According to Amazon, when I looked, you can't change the age setting, but it seems like you might be able to take it off completely. So apparently, according to the kids that she's been lying to, now she's claiming that her books are 18 plus, but they weren't. They never were until recently. But trying to change that as a cover story doesn't fix that, and it doesn't change the fact that she violated Arizona state law by advertising it to children on many platforms, but to go buy her stolen content, buy stolen content off of Amazon, not her stolen content, but content nonetheless, only to have them follow her back to her the same username on YouTube, where she's advertising the same stolen content all over to 13-year-olds, and then talking about things like lesbian sex and polygamy to them in front of them. That's grooming. That's pedophilia. So she's claiming that her content is and has been for adults, even though we've seen her for a year or a year and a half-ish now advertising to 13-year-olds, but she's trying to do damage control and cover it up. Except I have the screenshots showing that she lied. It was as early as March and April of last year. I have those screenshots from Amazon. So according to the kids today, she's telling them it's always been 18 plus, but I have the evidence to show that that's a lie. No, so does a court. So will a court. Don't do that. Or I will send you upriver, downriver, whichever. You pissed up wind, Kay. Right back in your face. Why did you do that? Really think that was a good idea? I guess I thought I'd get away with it. Well, you didn't. Yes, I did. Okay. You'll see about that. I now call all of my energy back. 4422 in all directions of infinite space and time. Right, they're speaking upon you. I know. So she's been going to slander me to people. Oh, and then beyond that, there's the bit where we know for a fact that then she has them go on Discord, which is a more private server. So she's selling stolen content to kids, having them come and hear her talk about sexual things on YouTube, and then advertising for them to go on what she thinks is private Discord server to talk about, I'm sure, even more inappropriate stuff than that, where she doesn't think the public is watching. That's child grooming, babe. Arizona state law. Which violation was that? Let's look it up. 3554. Arizona state law 13-3554. Exactly. I told you. See, I'm not even in your state, bitch, and I know the laws better than you do. What's wrong with you? Really, I don't give a fuck. You're going to prison, but think about it. You're going to prison, bitch. Don't worry. I will. And everybody can see it. Next. Stay blessed, God says. Don't worry, I will. You know, I was going to get another Evil Eye deck, but this one is actually screaming at me. Let's see.
Taco Bell's new Lux Value menu has 10
angry, but also crying. Control crashing. I love you. You guys, you rock. We're going to shift the energy in a minute. I'm going to do some Reiki and I think maybe some yoga vibes. I need to stretch. Flow it out. I've been pretty busy getting some things done, moving forward. Argument or fight is a strong factor. Perpetrator has behavioral patterns of a serial predator or serial killer. Yeah, we know. We know. Closer observation of the victim's living space may provide more clues. Like I said, she's already being watched by the authorities. They may very well have gone to question her. If not, they will. If not her, then people around her. It wouldn't surprise me. Predator who tracks a specific type of victim. We know. Like children, or people she thinks she can steal from, take advantage of. Right, like I said, just trying to stall people out, block their progress, either cause problems that have to be dealt with, so everything else has to be stopped and put on the back burner, to restart a problem that was once cleared out, to put more weight in a problem that's already, whatever the case may be, trying to block people's money, trying to block people's focus on their self-improvement, healing, love, whatever it is. They're just miserable bitches and they want people to fail because they feel like failures. And they think that trying to step on people and compete is the way to, what do you mean? Who told you that was success? You are delusional. Bitch, please. But you want to be a queen? You could never. Never. Bloodline or otherwise. Peasant. If you keep ripping your hair out, you're gonna go bald. Cynthia, you bitch ass rugrat. Anything else? Need to interview. I told you. If not yet, then they will be soon. They're watching you, bitch. Illegal activities played a role, and they know all about it because I told them about it and then sent them the evidence when they asked for it. Surveillance cameras. Oh, yeah, like those videos you tried to scrub from the internet that I have. Yeah, whoops. Not my whoops. Oh, like the spying and the child soldiers and predators. Deepers, deepers. Oh, yeah, whoops. Not my whoops. Anything else? Did that one already. Yeah, this is a routine for her. History of committing crimes. Engaged in unusual behavior prior to the crime. And then there's additional evidence at the crime scene, which one of my viewers said that like people were trying to delete more evidence as of this week, just scrub their stuff off their profiles. Narcissistic sociopath. Right. Holy shit. Okay, so she's giving narcissistic sociopath. That's why she thought that competing and trying to steal and be nasty was appropriate, and then playing the victim was the way to get out of it. That if they haven't been interviewing her, they will be if they haven't been asking about her to her family or people around her, whether to try to investigate or locate her or whatever the case may be, then they will be. Interviews with relatives or friends. They're looking, they're watching her. Multiple people were involved in the crime because it's been a big ass conspiracy. So it's a huge problem that needs to be addressed, and it is. It's a federal crime, right? They violated state laws, but they also violated federal ones, especially when there were jurisdiction crossovers and it went online too. That's another one, especially with the sales and then the children involved. That's wire fraud, right? She was selling my stolen stuff for money. There were transfers going back and forth online between sales and stuff. Bitch, that's wire fraud. And then there's the IRS. Even if I didn't want to press charges, she would still be fucked with the federal government. Oh, look, Austin, where art thou? Victim or victim's family was familiar with the killer, right? And I just had to make a police report before I came here to let them know, hey, the high school bully is still stalking me. So they're still linked in with this crazy case shit. The locals, the domestic abusers, George Clinton Eisworth, Cam and Adam Merchant, who ganged up with George Clinton Eisworth, two dumbass exes who lost me and then got mad that they couldn't have me and decided that bullying me together was their best course of action, either to try to what, get me back or revenge. You're fucking insane. So there's that. Austin was funny. You guys are hilarious. You make me laugh so. Don't bring out the warrior, bitch. You don't want it. Cell phone records may provide important clues. This crime will be solved pretty quickly. You're in trouble, bitch. That includes the hacking and all that too is being addressed. Yeah, and so George was diagnosed as a narcissistic sociopath by a doctor named Eleanor Pankow in 2014. And Cam and Adam Merchant got out of the military where he was effectively a trained assassin, a government-trained assassin, only to become a bounty hunter where he was effectively a trained stalker, and then decided to target me when I wouldn't join his little polygamy black magic sex cult or be an option. when I am the only queen. I'm a goddess. Who do you think you are? You remind me of the Morrigan. You done goofed. But you really want to fuck with me? Oh boy! And that was before he knew I come from the bloodline of Odin and Freya, who, by the way, he worships the shit out of. Damn, kid. Whoops, not my whoops. Losers. Okay, cell phone records may. Okay, so someone coerced the criminal into murdering or targeting the victim. We know there have been murder plots on my head too. We know, but this is also the recruitment of the gang stalkers, whether it be children or otherwise online. That's what that is. Money may be involved. Details leading up to the crime may be worth investigating, and they are. I know we know what the motive is: jealousy, vengeful exes, money. Motive enough for a psycho. Just one of those alone is motive enough. I have people after me with multiple. I am the whole ass tits. I'm the cookie jar and the bag of chips. I'm all that and then some, and they're mad about it. Are you good, bro? Anyway. You know what it was? Is a lot of people tried to judge me, not based on who I am and the rank of spirit I carry, but the life situation that people bullied me and backed me in a corner, or backed me into a corner of. Bitch, that is not who I am. I am not who you tried to reduce me to. That was your underestimation of your target. That's a you problem. Now that's your personal pickle and your undoing, ultimately. Your self-induced demise, which I did warn you about years ago. You're welcome. You listen instead of try to retaliate against the truth. Now, mind you, some of these asshats legitimately went into a court of law and complained to a judge that I was threatening them by telling them that they were going to face the consequences of their self-induced demise. How am I threatening you when I'm warning you against the consequences of your own action? She said I'm going to face my self-induced demise. She's threatening me. Self-induced means you're going to hurt yourself trying to hurt me. What do you mean? You try to complain like you're a victim when the statement alone means that you victimize yourself trying to victimize me. Bitch, please get a dictionary and get off my ass. Thank you. You don't steal the cookie and get away with it in this kitchen. No, especially not when I make them. And I'm the lady that bakes cookies for people and gives them out. So if I tell you no, I mean it. You don't deserve one if I don't offer you one. Thank you. What do you want? Cookie? Bitch, no! Are you proud of yourselves? No cookies for you. No bag of chips either. I wouldn't make you a fucking sandwich. And not a loaf of bread to put it on. Next. Peasantry. Let's raise the frequency a bit. I got downloads about that today. I knew I'd have to come and address it eventually. Glad we got that out of the way. I already hear it. Somebody's asking what this is. Song, you like this? Butterfly by Bass Nectar. Where's my water, you monkey? What are you doing? If my hair get longer, I haven't cut it in a while. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I saw them live in college. He's a Maine Coon cat. They're both Maine Coons, so they're big boys. My wild, docile boy. Thank you. You like the outfit? That's what Mr. Maker used to call them, my little panther. Of course I love you. Thank you. I like that. What are you doing? You love so much. No, it's not a good spot for you under my feet, sweet boy. But I do love you, except for Can I do this? Here. Let's get some for you. You don't have to be under my feet. Is that better? We'll see. If he stays there, he might just actually want to be under my feet. It might not be about the mat at all. Possibly it's not. It's fine. He's content on his own mat next to me. As long as he's in my aura, he's good. Mommy's bubble. My health first. Fuck it. Kingdom of Seraphim. That's right. answer. I've been hearing September. Also, on and off for the last couple of days. So, Can I Be Him by James Arthur?
All that it was rough. Lately I've been doing it. Then the last 4 cold Decembers coming cold. I see my family every month. I wanna go my parents love. So come and stay tonight, and I think I might have it all. And I think about every day. For the girl can't set my way. But I know the things he gives, you can take away. You know, you every night. That's the feeling I wanna get used to. There's no man who's terrified. It's the man who says to lose. Oh, and I lose. Me, stay. I want you, I need you, oh God. Don't stay. It's beautiful things that I've got. Please stay. I want you, I need you, oh God. Don't stay. These beautiful things that I've got. I found my mind, I'm feeling sane. It's been a while, but I'm finding my way. If everything's good and it's great, why do I sit and wait till it's gone? Oh, I tell you, I know I've got enough. I've got peace and I've got love. But I'm up and I'm thinking I just might lose it all. I want you, I need you, oh God. I need
There it is.
these beautiful things that I
I had a bone out of place. It was compressing my diaphragm. It makes it hard to move or speak or sing.
There goes my heart, beating, 'cause you are the reason I'm losing my sleep. Please come.
Thank you.
There goes my mind racing, and you are the reason that I'm still breathing. I'm hopeless now. I climb every mountain, swim every ocean, just to be with you. That's why I'm broken. Oh, 'cause I need you to
Do I have braces?
no. There goes my head shaking. You are the reason my heart keeps beating. I need you now. If I could turn back the clock, make sure that I feel the love and spend every hour of every minute keeping you safe. Fix what I'm broken, Lord, 'cause I need you to see. You are the reason. Cause I need to see you are the reason. When I come home, I'm gonna hold you so close. I swear to God, when I come home, I'll never let go.
Man to tighten this.
Flow to the ocean and know. You pull me close, guiding me home. And I need you to know that we're falling so fast. We're falling like the stars. We're falling in love. And I need scared to say those words. With you, I'm safe. We're falling like the stars. We're falling in love. Swear to God, I can see. Little kids in the street. We're born to you and me. Now that we've grown up, still a girl like love.
Thank you. Okay, this is still out. Hold on. Ooh, that was a good one.
I swear to God, every day He won't take you away. 'Cause without you, babe, I lose my way.
Yeah, I hope he's okay. He wanted to go on the trail, but 11:11. Sometimes I feel for him. Kind of limited on options on the trail. especially with nourishment. Oh, so he's okay. Protein bars get old fast. Angry karmic. I fucking hate her. She's doing all right. She's doing good. She's doing better. I'm healing. That's not what we wanted. We wanted to fuck her up, and no, you're in trouble for it. We fucked ourselves up in the process. Oh, but I warned you about that, though. Your thoughts are loud and ugly. You should be quiet. I'd say you don't have to say everything you think, but what do I say to that? You don't have to think everything you think. Just shush. Stay out of my energy. Devil and wombats. That was brilliant. You guys are hilarious. Wombats. Oh my god, I love you guys. Since they wanted to demonize me, thought I'd show them who's boss, bitch. It's a terrible spot for a chandelier. Don't do that. Design houses better. Don't do that. I'm furious. To be fair, though, I know the dumb bitch who designed that. She likes to sit at her Thanksgiving dinner table and talk shit about me instead of finding something to be grateful for. So I can tell why she made such a dumb choice to put a chandelier on a low ceiling that I, as somebody who is 5'7", can touch when they jump. Dump. Some cases, how do you know that? Why? Oh, how do I know that? Because she's like 60 or 70 now. I don't know. 60s, maybe. She dated my uncle when they were in high school. And then they were together for a very long time. And then she broke up with my uncle, but not before getting wasted and luring him into the basement to physically attack him. Only to go and date another uncle that I had, the father of one of the cousins who was involved with stealing my inheritance. Oh, I heard that. That's one baby. So, earlier. You see, Grandma Road. Nana Rose lore. And before Nana Rose died and the inheritance theft and all of that happened, Chandelier Lady went over to the Thanksgiving of her new boyfriend, which was the father of the cousin, and started trying to talk shit about me in front of the cousin. The cousin said, "Shut up," and then told me about it. And she also thought it was kind of weird that this lady was suddenly dating her dad. but then chose to steal my inheritance and my daughter's inheritance with her mom and her sister and another cousin when Nana Rose died. Actually, I know for a fact that they smothered her with a pillow to speed the process along. So they murdered her. But nonetheless, I have the backstory. Not smart. True story, bro, though. No dragons and shit.
And then you and me might end up together. Getting cold rain as I stand in the desert.
I've got stories to tell.
Oh, you are my heaven.
Did they steal my birthright? No, they tried to steal my birthright. Spiritually speaking and otherwise. But no. They're in trouble for trying. Also, as far as my sister goes, I'm the older one. Usually it's the younger ones that get hand-me-downs, right? No, no, no. Did the black sheep get handed a new car? Nope. Did her 6-year younger sister? Yes. Now, to be fair, she worked very hard, got very good grades, and put a lot of effort and practice into her sports. Yeah, but she also didn't deal with abuse and had support that I did not. Well, there's no comparison of the Gemini. Two fully different stories. She had 2 supportive parents. I did not. Nana Rose had my back, though. It's also why they targeted her. Thank you, Damien. I love you guys.
Timing girl, and love on me. I don't really wanna just one lady, like a really independent. That's my lady. That's my lady.
He catches frogs. Her daddy taught her how to fix cars. He was a mechanic. Don't want to die to get rich, but she loves 50 Cent. 21. Ask 21 questions, and they're all about us. You love me enough. You love me enough.
I really wanna kiss one baby, like a woman independent. My lady, like a lady.
That's why we nothing there. You said something about potatoes? The sweet potatoes? What? There's potatoes in my ears. Cheers. I heard somebody call potatoes patitties today, and I laughed so hard. Season your patitties. Okay. That's new. I haven't heard that one before, and I grew up in a restaurant. Funny. Anything else? It was like a YouTube cooking recipe thing that popped up, and I watched it for the recipe, but she said patitties. I'm like, yes, girl. I have tears in my eyeballs. So lightly season your patitties. Just lightly. I won't tell you me, 'cause it may be selfish. What is this? I won't ask you to hold me. This Everybody knows where you've been. Rest in your head. You're just like an angel. Can I stop the flow of time? Can I swim in your goodbye? 'Cause I don't think I'll ever leave this place. Oh, turn the lights down low. Yeah, no, I'm feeling it breathing slow. 'Cause by the way, just like this key, it's shining bright and in the flow. Turn the lights down low. All the heavy skies in me. Listening to your feet, in movie. Grab my hand and we're chasing the train. As you looking back at me, you plastic. Can I stop the flow of time? Can I swim in your delight? 'Cause I don't think I'll ever leave this place. Oh, wait, turn the lights down. Oh, yeah, no, I'm feeling you breathing slow. 'Cause that way just like this key, and trying to find it out and in the flow. Oh, turn the lights down low. Speaking of energy. Is this a wedding song? It's the wedding song.
No, I'm dreaming of you more. You're always hoping that we make it. You always want to keep my gaze. You're the only one I see. So one thing that won't change. I will never stop trying. I'll never stop watching as you leave. I'll never stop losing my breath. Every time I see you looking back at me, and I'll never stop holding your hand. I'll never stop opening your door. I'll never stop choosing you, babe. I'll never get used to you. With this love song to you, it's not a momentary phase. You are my life, I don't deserve you, but you love me just the same. You says we're older, I don't look the other way. You are my life, my love, my only. And it's the one thing that won't change. I'll never stop trying. I'll never stop watching as you leave. I'll never stop losing my breath. Every time I see you looking back at me, and I'll never stop holding your hand. I'll never stop opening your door. I'll never stop choosing you back. I'll never get with you. You get my heart racing. You still get my heart racing.
True native king of OG Canada. General Damien's the knight of the realm. All shall bow. You guys are hilarious. Oh gosh. That's funny. I need some edibles up in this joint. Maybe help. Tell me. I'm listening. That's interesting. Okay, we can do that. Oh, this is holding. Let's see. Enneagrammer radio is always very positive. We'll see what plays. Lease on Life. Okay. I'm listening. What's up?
like a heartbeat to a lonely drum when I thought that at the end it come you remind me that it's only just because. Took my soul down to the water.
What daily news? There are many.
Different than long as we got one another singing. Oh, oh, oh. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Got a brand new, got a brand new, got a brand new lease. Everything's gonna be alright. When I look into your eyes, got a brand new, got a brand new, got a brand new lease on life. Like a deep breath, wanna take you in when I hold you. I'm alive again, you're the proof that God's been listening. You're the side where the grass is green and you shake me like a tambourine, old Jersey. We make quite a team. When you took my soul down to the
Yeah, no, that's not the viable option. Of course, I've told the local paper here what's going on, but unfortunately, this is a small town, and some of the same people who have their hands in putting out the reports are the same people trying to cover up their crimes or helping other people do it. And actually, there's one news report thing that goes out that's published by an ex-police officer who got fired for being a dirty cop, and then they hired him to be the news guy. So there's that. No, they try to bury the truth. You have to go outwards. I saw that.
Everything's gonna be alright.
They're gonna get it though. Brand new Lease On Life.
Everything's gonna be alright. When I look into your eyes, got a brand new lease on life. Down to the world, I came back different. Long as we got one another singing, got a brand new lease on life.
Oh, I like this one. Oh, I heard this in a dream the other night.
I'll shut down the city lights. I'll lie, cheat, I'll beg and bribe to make you well.
Just the chills.
To make you well. When enemies are at your door, I'll carry you away from more. If you need help, your whole dangling body string, I'll carry your suffering to make you well. Give me reasons to believe you would do the same for me, and I will do it for you. Baby, I'm not moving on. I'll love you long after you're gone. For you. You will never sleep alone. I'll love you long after you go, and long after you're gone. When you fall like a statue, I'm gonna be there to catch you, put you on your feet. And if your well is empty, nothing will prevent me. Tell me what you need. What do you need? I surrender honestly. You've always done the same for me. So I will do it for you. Baby, I'm not moving on. I'll love you long after you're gone. For you. You will never see me alone. I'll love you long after you go. And long after you're gone. You're my backbone, you're my cornerstone, you're my cross when my legs stop moving. You're my head start, you're my longing heart. Won't stop moving. Like a drum, baby, don't stop beating. Like a drum, baby, don't stop beating. Like a drum, baby, don't stop beating. Like a drum, my heart never stops beating for you. For you. Baby, you're not moving on. Like you always say you you will never sleep alone. Like you always say you Like a drum, baby, don't stop beating. Like a drum, baby, don't stop beating. Like a drum, my heart never stops beating for you. I love you, you sound street avenue. Still a girl that look like you. I guess that's deja vu. I thought was kept true. You moved to West LA, New York is San Diego, wherever to get away from me. Oh, that one night was more than just right. I didn't need you, 'cause I was all through. Oh, I was overwhelmed and making scared as hell, because I really fell for you. Oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is
I can't actually control that. It just is going to play what it's going to play. But here's the Maker Radio. Burn slow. Blessings is a good one. So like a room where there's smoking a spark in the food. So like a breath in the wind where you're satisfied. Take my time until nothing like. Hi Austin, how are you? It's so nice to see you. Maybe if I don't get it, I bet it would taste like. Did you see my last short? You got a feature in there, man. Well, not the last one, the second to last one. Or my short feed. You went a little viral, man. That shit was funny though. You feel it a bit. Just a bit. In the beginning. We're chilling it out now. So yeah. Maybe if you do right, I can taste like really caviar. Show you what I'm into when I'm with you, but I want your best cigar. See me like a fine wine, only better with time, only for the work in a while. Show you what I'm into when I'm gonna with. Speaking of chillin', send good vibes. Chillin'. Prayers. I hear he's alright.
So I piano. The increase in the color.
If you know people that want this story and do something with it, absolutely. I know that there are people out there. I've known that there are people out there who want things to be corrected, who want to hear what's happening, who want to speak on it. I know there are. And that's why these people have been trying so hard to suppress and silence, even like with the algorithm suppression. They don't want the story out there. They want, if they do, they want to spin the narrative in their favor. But all I care about is the truth coming out. That's what they fear. It's not even about the truth coming out. I don't need to prove shit to anybody. However, they can't hide and keep getting away with what they're doing when the truth is out, and there are natural consequences. It stops more victims from being created. It stops present victims from being further victimized, and it finally holds the people who caused the problems accountable. So yeah, if you want to do something with it, then absolutely. But I've seen people be shady, and I've seen people make empty promises, and I've seen people just not care. So do my thing, speak the truth. I know that there are people out there. Thank you. Speaking of, I was actually just getting ready. Maybe I'll do one more song. I'm feeling Bishop breaks. And then we'll do a true crime because I need to chill. They're trying to do spell work. I feel that my stomach is turned. That's usually why when Bishop, it's very cathartic when I listen to Bishop in a mood. Or it gets me out of one. Do you know what I've been through? I felt forsaken with lost truths. Do you know what I've been through? Do you know what I've been through? I could take trial with the heart of a lion. I will stand the giants, 'cause I can take trial. Started in a guarded place. The more I push, the more I gain. Do you know what I've been through? I felt forsaken with all this truth. Do you know what I've been through? Do you know what I've been through? I can take triumph with the heart of a lion. I will stand with giants, 'cause I can take triumph. I can piss them off. I can piss them off. Yeah, I can piss them off. Oh, I like this one too. I've been having dreams. As I'm looking up, suddenly the sky erupts. Flames and like the trees, expect to fall in leaves. Gather right up, so deep in love when I dream of dying. I never feel so loved. I've been having dreams, crashing in the slow street, tripping and falling. I wanted it to happen. Thank you. God turns to ice, crushed with paradise. Got it like a gold, died in the cold. I feel right home. Waves on fire. I'm so deep in love when I dream of dying. I never feel so low. Waves on fire. I'm so deep in love when I dream of dying. I never feel so I heard this in the shower a few hours ago. I got my eggs and my pancakes too. They don't make the sun anything but true. I break the yolks and make bloody face. I don't like it in my brain. It's about for me to leave the keys in the door. I never leave a time for anymore. Dreams last for so long. Even after you're gone, I know that you love me, and soon you will say you're meant for me, and I was meant for you. Why you're a distraction? You're so cute, though. I for a walk, stole a cup of coffee, but I didn't want to talk. Picked up the paper, there was walked by and lose no parts of being broken. People been used, pouring rain. It just wasn't the same. It was happy when I was sad. It made me miss you. Oh, so bad. Dreams last so long. Even after you're gone, I know that you love me, and soon you will say you're meant for me, and I was meant for you. My business is doing fine, but I don't want to say I had you on the line. Sing the story now, much to say. Hearts are broken every day. Brush my teeth and put the hair back on. I like to hate when I leave the light on. I pick up a cup and turn the sheets down and take a deep breath. A good look around, put on my PJs, hop in the bed. Up alive, but I do most of the day. Trying to tell myself it'll be alright now. Should I lay more to rest? Dreams last for so long. Even after you're gone, I know that you love me, I woke up to the bed made and the downstairs and the dishes and my mom's
I upgraded, by the way. No more ads on YouTube. You're welcome. I love you. I thought I'm not used to it playing after I close it. Okay. I didn't play those.
Some people want to switch it up, like just one love, never be enough. Some people want to go for TV, and none of those things make sense to me. Some people think it's supposed to hurt, like it couldn't be real if it's putting you first. Some people watch go for TV, and none of those things make sense to me.
You just been so consistent. That stability, it's so healthy. It's confusing me. I'm done with your matrix and compromise. You treat me so well. It's weird, but I love how much I like it. Some people wanna switch it up. I like just one love. Will never be enough. Some people watch and go for TV, like I love those things that make sense to me. Some people think it's supposed to hurt, like it couldn't be real if it's putting you first. Some people watch and go for TV, and none of those things make sense to me. If the old me met the new me, you probably wouldn't stop me, but I want you, like only you. It's as simple as you want me to. Some people wanna switch it up. Battery died. Like just one love could never be enough. Some people watch golf on TV. Neither of those things make sense to me. I didn't charge it because I knew I wasn't really going to use it. This is working right. Music is better than Pandora, I think. But we are going to switch, and I'm going to stretch. You ready for some true crime? Didn't occur to me. Guess I do need to put this back on the charger now. I'm going to do it that way. This is temporary, the setup. Hey, monkey. You monkey. Hey, hey. Sir, don't make things harder. You need to be. You're a monkey. You're just a silly. Hey. Scooby Dooby, stop that.
I heard that somebody's like, you fucking bitch, I hate you. Well, guess what? I probably don't like you very much either, so it's fine. It's fine. You're not, but I am. It's fine. You know what I've also been hearing today? She's going to get away with everything we did to her. And like the setup attempts, they know. They're in trouble. But do you hear that delusion? She's going to get away with everything we did to her. As if it's the victim's fault that they couldn't falsely accuse somebody. Delusional. Delusional. You're delusional. And I think it's hilarious. Yeah. Blended right into the floor. You. I heard that. Divine Mouse sounds like, I love her nuts. That's funny. I think you're cute. You're a cutie patootie. I heard that. Laughed at the things I said, but then I laughed at the fact that you were laughing at the things that I said. Why? Why are we like this? Oh, goodness. Okay, it's time to turn on. Right. As I say that, the phone automatically goes ping. Yeah, right. Perfect timing. You do as I say when I ask. Quick. Ping. It said, yeah, right. I ask and I shall receive. Oh, goodness. Time for true crime and chill. I heard that. Somebody says theme song. Is that our true crime theme song? Time for a true crime and chill. Guess it could be. I don't know about that, but I guess it could be. Where is it? Daniel Christian. Daniel Christian. There she goes. Open marriage, very messy when sex-fueled wife gets jealous.
A case where an open marriage got very messy.
Does the unthinkable.
And this couple was named Cheryl and Lusa Coe.
Okay, I just want to show you really quickly what they look like, so you know what the perpetrators are looking like. I guess. Did she murder the other lady? Oh, those bad vibes.
They met each other later on in life and they fell for each other very quickly. They got married. They started exploring different sexual lifestyles. Apparently, Cheryl had a very insatiable sex drive. They practiced BDSM. They attended swingers parties until one day they actually decided to have an open marriage. And it didn't take long for things to backfire on them. It became extremely toxic. It was fueled by jealousy until one day it ended in deadly consequences. So that is what we are going to be talking about today. So let's jump in. And I
that
just
was
want to
a
give a
whole
huge
ass
thank you to
tantrum.
today's sponsor, and that is Mine as Much. And you guys know
Well, that
how
was
obsessed
uncomfortable
I am
to
with
feel.
this game. I play it all of the time. It's literally become part of my daily routine at this point. I'm always merging and evolving the cute
Are
and
you
adorable
laughing at my
creatures when I'm
facial
taking breaks
expression?
from my research. There are so many creatures to collect. My latest favorite
Oh.
discovery is...
Hold on. Come on home, Skillet. Goodness gracious. Skip, please. Space button. Alien button. I'm not making you listen to this silly commercial. Glad she's getting paid. But goodness gracious. All right.
an Aries, and she lived
Oh,
in a place
no.
called Noonan, Georgia.
She's an
where the
Aries.
rest of today's case takes place. Now, we don't really
Bad
know
for the
anything about
Aries.
Cheryl's childhood. All we know is that after she graduated, she did eventually go to medical school, and then she got a job at a local hospital. And Cheryl was a very hard worker. She stayed in the same job for 27 years. She worked her way through the ranks, became a team leader in the Women's Imaging Center, where she helped countless women by diagnosing serious health issues such as cancer. During this time, Cheryl did go on and get married before giving birth to 2 daughters, and the family were a very happy family for 20 years. However, later on in the marriage, Cheryl's husband was diagnosed with a serious spinal issue. He had to go through several surgeries. He was prescribed a ton of
Heavy
different
pain
medication,
medicine,
and
yeah,
it is said
sure.
that he became addicted
Yep,
to
there
this
it
pain medication. It is also said that the medication had some serious side effects because he was now a very angry person, and he became very verbally abusive to Cheryl and the 2 daughters.
If he was on heavy pain medicine, he was probably on some kind of opioid. Opioids do 2 things typically. Big time. Well, really 3. My stomach's like, girl, you need to feed me. And did you hear that? That's what that was. Girl, eat something. Okay. Let me start with some water, please. That's again. Relax. I will. Opioids make them nauseous and sick to their stomach, as my stomach is doing a thing. They make them agitated, like irritable, angry, aggressive. And they make them something called nodding out, and they can't stay awake. Somebody will be sitting there in a chair and like falling asleep on themselves, and their chin starts to drop because they fall asleep. And then when they start to fall, it wakes them back up, and so they sit back up. That but it's a cycle. They'll sit there like that and perpetually almost falling asleep, and then the process of falling asleep shooting them awake as they're falling, as their chin's dropping, wakes them back up. It's called nodding out. But yeah,
in
opioids.
South China, there is this 100-kilometer-long
What
wilderness.
is that?
And then one day, one of Cheryl's daughters actually went to Cheryl and said, Mom, I cannot live like this anymore.
Such
I cannot
complainers.
live with Dad. And this is the moment when Cheryl
Complain.
thought, yeah, I can't do this either. I don't want
Just
to
need
put
to
my
feed her.
daughters through this. And Cheryl got a divorce from her husband,
Fly meal
moved
prepped
out
anyway.
with the 2 daughters. So that brings us to 2015. Cheryl is in her mid-40s. She is newly single, and she actually starts to get close to a man named Luther Cohn. And this is where everything now changes for Cheryl. So who is
You're
Luther
under
Cohn? Well, he
arrest.
goes by Luke, not Luther, and he was born in
What did the police officer say to his stomach? You're under arrest. I think that might be right up there with knock knock. Who's there? Dwayne. Dwayne who? Dwayne the bathtub. I'm drowning. And that one's hard to beat. I've loved that since I was 5.
September of 1972. He was also born and he grew up in Noonan, Georgia, the very same city that Cheryl currently lived in and obviously grew up in. And growing up, Lucas spent his childhood just being a regular, normal kid, just running around the neighborhood, playing football. It is said that he had a, quote, classic Southern upbringing where family and going to church were the most important things. And after graduating high school, Luke enlisted in the army where he spent the next 4 years. Then after returning home, he started up his own construction company that was very successful. He did get married. He had 2 children. He had 2 sons, and his first marriage also lasted for around 20 years. But later on in his marriage, Luke's wife actually cheated on him with one of his friends. So they ended up separating and they got a divorce in 2014. It was around a year later where Cheryl got her divorce. Everything was finalizing there when Cheryl and Luke met for the very first time. And when they met, they fell for each other straight away. They fell hard and quick. Now, we don't actually know how they met, but it was around the summer of 2015, and they just bonded immediately. They had a lot of the same interests. They were both Georgia Bulldogs fans. They both loved motorbikes, and they would go on long rides together. They both had 2 children from a previous marriage, and those children were basically adults themselves now. And they shared a little bit of the same kind of trauma as well, because both of their marriages broke down because their spouse had cheated on them, turned abusive, and then they found each other. Cheryl and Luke, they brought their families together, they brought their children together, everyone bonded, everyone was getting along straight away. Cheryl at this point as well was also currently donating a kidney to one of her colleagues, which is very generous of her. And then in April of 2016, on Cheryl's 46th birthday, and this was approximately 9 months after they first met, Luke asked her to marry him. She said yes. The 2 of them got married. They moved in together, and they just seemed together on social media. They portrayed themselves as the perfect couple. They had such big smiles.
That was absolutely an accident, but a couple of years ago, it's like a year or so ago, I was hearing something clairaudiently, and somebody was like, she reminds me of Pippi Longstocking. And I was like, what do you mean? So I went through and all these different traits and characteristics. Pippi's a badass. She fights for a good cause. She's not afraid to stand up to bullies, including boys. She's her weird, happy little self. She makes friends with animals. I can relate. But also, you know what I have been hearing? I realized I was wearing the socks still, the long ones. That was an accident. But now it makes even more sense. It reminds me of Pippi Longstocking. That's not what they were talking about. It's funny. No, it's both. Well, Pippi had some wild red hair. Well, here's the thing. My hair's dark, right? But if you've ever seen me in the light or a picture of me where my hair looks red or like half of it's really dark and then half of it's reddish, it's because the half that's dark is not in, it's like in the shade, and then the sunlight hits the parts that are red. Why? It's because you either have a blue base as an undertone typically, or a red undertone. I have a red undertone. So especially in the summertime, this has been my whole life. The sun will bleach my hair, but not blonde. It will go auburn. I get natural auburn highlights. So it's dark. Sometimes people think it's black. I've had people say it's black. It's not black. It's very dark brown, but it has this red undertone in it. It's the Celtic, and it comes through. You can see it in the light as well. Also the green, like the green in my eyes comes back out in the light too. Anyway. Pippi. But lately I've been hearing, again, I heard this a few months ago, she reminds me of a moray eel, which sounds like, what? Like a squirmy sea creature? But I kind of do move around a lot. First of all, that's not what they were talking about. They were talking about how moray eels are seen as very like predatory, aggressive creatures, and they're not. They actually just kind of hang out and stay in their den, but they're very protective over their den, their home space, and they'll come out and defend it, but they're not going to go actively search for fights and arguments. They're just defensive of their territory. Subsequently, they move with a lot of grace. They're actually very graceful creatures, despite their kind of jarring, initial, potentially alarming. Shocking, right? Yeah, and you don't want to get struck by a electric eel either. So anyway. When you're swimming at night and your feet feel a bite, that's a moray. That's funny. Oh, and they're nocturnal. It's 12:14 here. Pippi. Back. Oh, somebody's mad. I heard that.
On Cheryl's 46th birthday, and this was approximately 9 months after they first met, Luke asked Cheryl to marry him. She said yes. The two of them got married. They moved in together, and it just seems so happy together. On social media, they portrayed themselves.
New civilization will have free income along with the right to grow own fruits of labor, even weed. Right, man, right on.
Vacations, and they just seem so happy on anniversaries.
You guys rock.
Their feeds were filled with love and affection. However, behind closed doors, things were maybe not as smooth sailing, because we now get to 2020. This is around 5 years into the relationship. Cheryl and Luke were both approaching their 50s. All of their children had now grown up. They were all adults and they had all moved out. It is also said that at this point, Cheryl had started to go through the menopause, which had a
like
huge
a
effect on
Lunama.
her. Her hormones were completely out of control. She didn't feel like herself. She had to take a lot of different supplements and change her lifestyle to just get her life back on track. And it is said that when Cheryl did start to get her life back and everything balanced out, she was left with an insatiable sex drive.
Is this menopause?
With love and affection. However, behind closed doors, things were maybe not as smooth sailing, because we now get to 2020. This is around 5 years into the relationship. Cheryl and Luke were both approaching their 50s. All of their children had now grown up. They were all adults and they had all moved out. It is also said that at this point, Cheryl had started to go through the menopause, which had a huge effect on her. Her hormones were completely out of control. She didn't feel like herself. She had to take a lot of different supplements and change her lifestyle to just get her life back on track. And it is said that when Cheryl did start to get her life back and everything balanced out, she was left with an insatiable sex drive. Like, I'm talking, it went through the roof. So this is when Cheryl and Luke started to experiment a little bit more with their sex life, spice things up, keep Cheryl satisfied. They started practicing BDSM, where Luke was the dominant one, Cheryl was the more submissive one. This is also when they dived headfirst into the swingers community for the first time. And apparently it was one of their friends that got them into this, and they just started going to as many swingers parties as they could. And the two of them would have sex with other couples that were at these swingers parties, and they always did it together. They even started hosting their own swingers parties. They invited a ton of couples over, and there was just a lot of people having sex with each other, and it was working for them. Cheryl and Luke were absolutely loving this change in their lifestyle. Cheryl was now satisfied. Luke was really enjoying himself as well. They were doing it in a good way. They were doing it in a way where there was no jealousy. Everything was out in the open, and it suited them. They said that it added excitement to their marriage, and it did satisfy Cheryl for a while. However, it got to a point where it wasn't cutting it for Cheryl anymore. There just weren't enough swingers parties to attend. Other couples didn't want to go to swingers parties as much as she did. She kept demanding more and more sex from Luke, and Luke tried to keep up with Cheryl. He tried to satisfy her, but he just couldn't. He couldn't keep up with her high sexual demands. So this is when Luke actually suggested something pretty drastic. He came up with the idea that the couple should maybe try having an open marriage. And it was this exact open marriage that would tragically lead to deadly consequences. However, in the beginning of their open marriage, things actually did go very smoothly. Cheryl agreed pretty much straight away to have an open marriage. She thought that it was a great idea. I mean, they were already having sex with other people. The only difference now is that they would have sex with people individually, not together, because they had always done everything together before. However, before they actually started their open marriage, they wanted to set some ground rules to make sure that both of them were satisfied, happy, there was no jealousy, and nobody got upset by anything. So one of the main rules that they had was how many people they could sleep with. They were only allowed to sleep with one person at a time, meaning that other than each other, they couldn't have multiple sexual partners at the same time. They couldn't go and have sex with this person on Monday, a different person on Tuesday, go back to the first person on Wednesday. They couldn't do that. It just had to be one person, and then they had to move on to a different person if they wanted a different person. Does that make sense? And this rule is very important for later on in this case. And another incredibly important rule that they had was that they had to be completely open and honest with each other. They also needed to get each other's permission before they could go and sleep with anybody else. And they had to be transparent at all times. And things in the beginning went very smoothly. Both of them started to see other people, started hooking up with other people. They would literally go out and bring different people back and have sex with different people in the house at the same time, but just in different rooms. However, they ran into a problem very, very quickly, because they soon discovered that it was much easier for Cheryl to find men to sleep with than Luke to find women to sleep with. Because apparently men that were the same age as them, so around their 50s, apparently there was a lot more men that were willing to sleep with Cheryl than women in their 50s willing to sleep with Luke.
Because a woman has some self-respect, I would say.
A lot of options, but Luke, not so much. However, they tried to figure out a solution to this little problem, because Cheryl didn't want herself going out sleeping with all these people and Luke not doing the same. So Cheryl started to introduce Luke to her own friends for Luke to sleep with, which is definitely a little strange. Like, oh, that's definitely going to get a little bit messy. But Cheryl would find her friends that were willing to sleep with Luke, and she would introduce them to each other.
My God,
but that wasn't the only thing that started to get a little bit messy in this open relationship, because Cheryl was also hooking up with her old male friends. And I say old male friends, I'm talking about her friends from back in the day. Male friends that she had grown up with, gone to school with, maybe even dated in the past. Cheryl started to find those men and hook up with them. She used to actually go on Facebook to see if any of her male friends had recently gotten divorced. And then she would
really just
pounce
want
on
the
them
jam.
if they had. And again, this is just going to get incredibly messy. It's like you're just asking for jealousy to get introduced here. But their open marriage, it continued like this for a while. However, not surprisingly, this is where some tension started to develop in the open marriage. Because the two of them could never quite agree on the rules of the relationship. It seemed like the rules of their open marriage would change every single week. But that wasn't the only problem. Because another huge problem was that Luke started to tell pretty much everybody that he was in an open marriage. And Cheryl did not like this at all. I mean, this was the town that she had grown up in. She knew a lot of people in this town, and she was worried about her reputation. She was worried about judgment from other people being in an open marriage. But she was also worried that she would lose her job if the hospital that she worked at found out that she was in an open marriage, which I don't know why they would fire her over that, but she was just worried overall about her reputation, and Luke could not stop blabbing. And this caused a lot of arguments between the two of them. They started to become more distrustful of each other. They started accusing each other of having secret sexual partners, because remember, one of their rules, they had to be completely open, transparent about everything, and they also had to let each other know and ask for permission. Hey, can I sleep with this person, or can I sleep with that person?
Reputation versus character. We talked about
becoming
that.
so suspicious of one another, it was turning incredibly toxic. Cheryl was constantly accusing
that's two
Luke of
synchronicities
sleeping
at
with
least.
women in secret and breaking the terms of their agreement, and vice versa. But there was one other problem that started to arise in the relationship, which is when they did have sex with each other, it became incredibly violent. And I just want to clarify before I say any more that this is just Cheryl's side of the story. We do not know Luke's side of the events. So according to Cheryl, whenever they would have sex, Luke became incredibly aggressive towards her. And it goes back to them practicing BDSM. If you remember, Luke was the dominant, Cheryl was the submissive. Well, apparently Luke started now doing things to Cheryl that she hadn't consented to. She wasn't happy about the things that he was doing, and I don't know exactly what he was doing, but Cheryl just wasn't happy. And also, according to Cheryl, Luke became more turned on when he was violent and aggressive during sex, and this was amplified even further if he was drunk, or at least had been drinking alcohol. Apparently Luke got really turned on by slapping Cheryl's breasts to the point where he would leave bruises. He also choked Cheryl during sex more aggressively than they had ever agreed to. And there was one time where Luke was choking Cheryl during sex and she actually passed out. Cheryl also claimed that Luke didn't believe in safe words, even though this is something that Cheryl had asked to be introduced before in their sex life. And there was even a time where Luke started cutting Cheryl during one of their sex sessions. Cheryl was not okay with this. She didn't want this to happen, but she couldn't get out of it. She couldn't stop him, and she didn't have a safe word. And it also got to a point where Luke was being violent outside of the bedroom as well. There was one time where they were walking down the back porch steps before Luke grabbed Cheryl's ankle, pulled her leg out from underneath her, and she went tumbling down the stairs. This incident actually caused Cheryl to tear a muscle in her glute that required surgery. However, I just want to clarify again that these are Cheryl's words. And as we will go on to find out, they're her versions of events, and we don't know Luke's side of the story. So things are getting incredibly messy between the couple. By this point, we are now in June of 2021, approximately 18 months after they first started their open marriage. And things are just deteriorating every single day. It's getting more messy, more toxic. Because on Saturday, the 19th of June, just 4 days before the terrible events of today's case, this is when Cheryl and Luke were planning on hosting a party. Now, we don't quite know what party this is, but given how many swingers parties they throw, I think it's safe to assume that it was a swingers party. They had invited loads of other couples, and it was supposed to be this big event. However, the weather was terrible on this day, and no one wanted to leave their house. Only one couple showed up to their party, and if this was one of their swingers parties, it was a massive fail. And Cheryl and Luke, both of them were left pretty unsatisfied by this party. So this definitely did not help the situation. It just created more tension between the two of them. I think the two of them were probably hoping to blow off some steam, maybe, and it didn't quite work out like that. So now we get to Monday, 2 days before the terrible events of today's case. And this is when Cheryl was texting Luke about how many men she was allowed to sleep with on that week. And this was all part of their agreement. They were very transparent, always asked each other's permission. However, this is when Cheryl wanted to change up the rules of their open marriage. Because if you remember, one of the most important rules that they had was that they were only allowed to sleep with one person at a time. However, Cheryl has just messaged Luke asking how many men she could sleep with that week. Because Cheryl wanted to sleep with 2 different men pretty much at the same time, like going between the 2 of them on that week. And Luke was not happy about this. He actually started texting Cheryl back, asking her how was she going to find the time to fit in sleeping with 2 men in her busy schedule and her work and everything. He said words like, "What are you going to do? Sleep with both men on the same day?" And Cheryl replied, "I could do, and then I could be with you." Basically saying that she could have sex with both men back to back, then go back to her husband Luke and have sex with him as well on the same day. And Luke was not happy. He said to Cheryl that it, quote, turned his stomach thinking about her having sex with 2 men on the same day and then her coming back to him. So Cheryl got annoyed at how Luke was being, and she replied saying, "Okay, fine, whatever, let's end our open marriage. It's causing too many problems." To which Luke responded, no, he did not want to end the open marriage. He wanted to stick with the open marriage regardless of the problems it was causing. And the 2 of them were so angry with one another. They did not make up. Apparently they were so angry with each other that they didn't speak for 24 hours. And then 2 days later, they were still angry with each other. This is when things are about to get even worse very quickly. Because it was now Wednesday, the 23rd of June, 2021. Luke was out at work at his construction company. And at 3 p.m. that day, Luke sent Cheryl a text message saying that he wanted to talk to her when they got home and he wanted to make up with her. And apparently Cheryl was very happy reading this message. So when Cheryl was traveling back from work, she stopped off, she picked up some things to make some dinner, she picked up some ciders, and she thought that her and Luke were going to make up, have a nice evening, and get things back on track. When she got home, she saw that Luke's car was there in the driveway, and Cheryl was looking forward to going inside and greeting him. But when she got inside, she did not find Luke. Instead, she found Luke's oldest son, who was now an adult. He was over at the house to visit his dad. Luke's son said that he was going to hang out with his dad in his workshop. They were going to do a few shots of whiskey and just hang out. So Cheryl, she just went to the kitchen. She started cooking dinner anyway because she thought, well, okay, Luke's son's here, but once he leaves, me and Luke can have that talk and we can make up. So Cheryl, she's cooking dinner. She's expecting Luke to come inside at any moment so they can have that talk. But Luke just doesn't come back in. Luke's son left at around 6 p.m., but Luke stayed in the workshop. He still never came inside. And Cheryl got annoyed at this. She actually just started eating dinner anyway by herself because she wasn't waiting any longer. And then after dinner, Cheryl went out to the back porch. She read a book and she drank some of the ciders that she had bought. And the whole time she could hear Luke. He was in his workshop and he was blasting his music.
So
and Cheryl
she's
was
getting drunk, probably
because she was
pissed.
like, why did he even bother texting me saying that he wanted to talk and make up when he won't even come out of his workshop? So by 7 p.m., Cheryl just gave up because she thought, he's never going to come in. He's never going to have this talk with me. So Cheryl decided that she was just going to go to bed. She took some sleeping medication, which she apparently takes all of the time because she struggles to get to sleep without it. And then she went to bed. And so far, I just want to point this out again, all of this is Cheryl's words and her point of view. It's hard to even know how much of this is even true. Because according to Cheryl, she fell asleep straight away and she was asleep by 7:15 p.m. And then almost immediately after she fell asleep, she heard a loud bang. It startled her awake, and she thought that there was an intruder in the house. And then the bedroom door flung open, and Cheryl saw a figure standing there. It was dark, and she couldn't make out who the figure was, but the figure started shouting, and Cheryl was petrified. She didn't know what to do. Luke had always warned her about possible intruders, and he had told her to keep a gun on her bedside table, and for her to shoot anyone if anyone intruded and try to harm her. And after seeing this figure in her doorway, this is exactly what Cheryl did. She picked up her gun, pointed it at the figure, and fired multiple shots. And the shots hit their target. The person collapsed on the floor. And
Was it
this
him?
is the moment where apparently Cheryl realized for the first time what she had done. She had just done something horrific and unbelievable. Because this
Kill
is
her
when she
husband?
heard her husband Luke's voice frantically shouting, "Babe, babe, you've shot me." Cheryl flipped the light on in panic, and this is when she saw her husband for the first time. There was no intruder. The figure that she saw was her husband Luke, and he was now on the floor, lying in a pool of his own blood. And as Luke was bleeding out, Cheryl dialed 911 almost immediately. On the
Stomach just
phone, she
dropped.
was frantic. She was saying, my husband has been shot. He's bleeding out, come quickly." And authorities arrive on the scene within no time at all. They rush inside and they hear Cheryl shouting from the bedroom. And when they enter the bedroom, they find Luke on the floor. He is naked and he is covered in blood and lying in a pool of his own blood. But he is still alive. He is still conscious. In fact, he's still able to talk to the paramedics that are there trying to save his life. And the officers led Cheryl outside while the paramedics did everything that they could to save Luke's life. But suddenly, this is when his vital signs started to drop. And he quickly passes out because he has lost so much blood.
Yep.
He is struggling to breathe. Paramedics try and perform CPR, but by this point, one of Luke's lungs had collapsed. And he had just lost way too much blood. And sadly, there was nothing more that anybody could do. And tragically, this was the moment where Luke passed away, which happened so suddenly out of nowhere. It really looked like at one point as well that he could have pulled through. I mean, he was
Somebody
still
just, I
conscious,
heard that
talking to the paramedics
asked,
when they got
how do
there.
I
but
know
then
that? How
everything
did I know
just
that?
changed so quick.
How did I know what? About the blood, I heard. Medical comprehension, but also I'm a medical medium. When my daughter was born, I hemorrhaged. And have you ever stood up too quickly, like been bending over and then stood up too quickly and gotten dizzy? Kind of got to catch your breath and like, yeah, it's more than just the dizziness. It can feel like heavy, like hard to breathe a little bit. And then what was the other thing? Also like your body can feel kind of heavy. I think it's just the lack of oxygen. But what's happening is the blood volume is too low. So your body's not able to circulate as much blood, meaning the oxygen that was moving through your blood, because your blood needs to be oxygenated so that it can circulate that oxygen in the blood to the rest of your body. Oxygen to the brain and the blood. It's hard to, I don't know exactly why, if it's like your body trying to conserve energy. It's already hard enough to breathe. It feels heavy. It almost feels like there's a weight on your chest, but your limbs can feel kind of tired too. Like everything feels heavy. Feel like you need to just sit for a minute to calibrate or recalibrate. And also your heart can race too. It's like pumping harder to try to circulate that blood. And there's just not as much of it. So everything is working harder. I think possibly because of that, I understand. I'm also a medical medium. I heard that also. Somebody's asking how to fix it. First, they stabbed me in the leg with a needle full of Pitocin to try to like close off the wound. And then it was like chemical induction reversal. And then it's just rest, really, and recovery, which I actually needed more of than I got. And then was abused in the middle of that, so it was a whole process. But you little monkey, you want to play? Pew, pew. Not for you. But yeah, blood loss is serious.
And he was shot multiple times by his own wife. It's just crazy and heartbreaking how quickly everything happened. And when Luke was pronounced dead by the paramedics, this is when the whole investigation turned on its head, because it now went from an accidental shooting to a suspicious death. And Cheryl was informed that Luke had passed away.
You know where that comes from also, by the way?
started
Because my mom hemorrhaged too. You know where that comes from? It's the royal bloodline. Comes from, all right. We've talked a little bit about the last Russian empress and emperor, Nikki and Alex. They had 5 children, all of which were girls except for the last one, the boy. His name was Alexei. And he had hemophilia because his mother, none of the girls had it, and his mother didn't have it, but his mother carried the gene because it came from, this was Empress Alexandra Fedorovna. And that's who I have family lineage relation to. She went over from England to Russia to marry Nikki. They were friends. They married out of love, actually. They were one of the very few royals that married out of love and not obligation. Nonetheless, 24222. Hi, babies. You're so silly. You're so silly. Such a silly boy. But her grandma was Queen Victoria. Alex had, growing up, more of a relationship with her grandmother. She spent a lot of time with her grandma. She was very close to her grandma, Victoria, Queen Victoria. And that's where the gene, clotting disorder, family gene came from. I can pinpoint it. It comes from the royal side.
screaming and crying.
This is so fake. Like, I can feel it. It's awful. She's melting down, but
Oh God, please!
Why don't you just have a seat? Just have a seat.
Oh please! Why am I here? Where is he?
Chair? If you don't sit down, we're going to sit you in a car since you're not listening. Okay? We don't want to do that, so you need to chill out here, okay?
And there is footage of this online. You can see the officers are leading Cheryl to a chair so she can sit down and start telling her side of the story.
Shauna, she was, listen to me, hon. You need to listen to me. Sit up.
She tells the
she's
officers
faking
that
though.
herself
She's a
and Luke
murderer.
have been arguing over the last few days. She also discloses that they are in an open marriage. And Cheryl basically tells the officers
Give me
everything
the
that I
cringe,
just told you
Russia,
in this
yeah.
case.
Came home from work. He was out in the shop. His son was here.
They were out working on his panhead. He and I have not really talked since yesterday. We had a disagreement. He came home while I was on the porch yesterday, took his bike and loaded off and went away. And he didn't come home till after.
She talks about the fact that herself and Luke were arguing over the last few days. She discloses that they are in an open marriage. And she also says that it's the open marriage that had been causing the tension. And she's actually being pretty forthcoming about their problems. She goes into a lot of detail and the background of their relationship. And at this point, Cheryl is shaking, she's crying, she seems devastated. She also talks about the day leading up
She has
to
an
the shooting,
adrenaline rush from
about Luke
shooting a
messaging
gun.
her saying that he wanted to talk, wanted to make up, and ultimately they never actually got to have that talk because Luke was in his workshop all night. And Cheryl said that she thought she heard an intruder, so she picked up her gun and began to shoot.
So we were going to talk tonight, but he stayed out in the shop.
What are we not disagreeing about? What, somebody else? Somebody else involved?
Not particularly. He was asleep this morning when I left for work. We didn't talk all day. And he sent me a text at 3 o'clock. He told me he was ready to talk. He stayed out in the shop when I got home. I came in. I drank several Angry Orchards.
What time?
I went in and I took my medicine. He was still out here. I fell asleep. And then I heard somebody come in the door yelling, and I just reached over on my nightstand and grabbed my gun because that was the only thing I knew to do.
So you grabbed your gun and then what?
I shot twice. And I figured out it was him after I shot him, and he told me I had shot him.
Did you see him?
But the bedroom door was closed. No.
Was the TV still on at that
The
point?
TV was still on, but I couldn't. All of the doors were closed.
Is there anybody else here?
No.
Are you sure there's nobody else?
No.
Besides the two?
Where was
It was just the two of us. His son had left a while back. I heard his truck leave. No, it was all by text message. We never even saw each other. No, I just grabbed the gun because all I heard was yelling, and I was in a daze. I was already asleep.
And the officers that were listening to this were like, okay, this seems plausible, like this could happen. But this is when they also realized that a lot of the things that Cheryl was saying just didn't really make sense. Because first of all, Cheryl said that she fell asleep at 7:15 p.m. However, the 911 call was placed at 7:26 p.m., just 11 minutes after she first fell asleep, which would mean in those 11 minutes, Cheryl would have had to have fallen asleep into a pretty deep sleep, be woken up by an intruder, then started shooting, and then called 911 all in the space of 11 minutes. I mean, obviously, that could happen, but it's not really very plausible. Another thing that was confusing is that at 7:15 p.m., it was still daylight outside. At least it was in
I told
Georgia,
you,
where
she's the
Cheryl
murderer.
was living.
That's why I was
Obviously, depending on
cringing.
where you are in the world,
I wasn't cringing at her breaking down because she was breaking down. It was off. It was inorganic. It was manufactured. It wasn't real. And I felt it. I could hear it. Yeah, it was very fake.
15 p.m., it could be very, very dark, but it wasn't where Cheryl was. But according to Cheryl, she saw this shadowy figure.
And no, Tsar Nicholas. Yes, in relation to the fact that the children and I share relatives, but no, because the bloodline died with them. However, my bloodline is the Queen Victoria line also. In part, there are a number of branches that go off. and a couple variations, which we won't get into the depths of right now. However, Alex went over from England. In England, royals are my family.
In the doorway, and she couldn't quite make out who they were. But how would it be a shadowy figure in the daylight? She would be able to see who it was. I mean, that was her husband. Another
not
thing
the
that
Russian
just
bloodline.
seemed a little
Not
bit
the Russian
suspicious is
They-
that
but my
Cheryl said
family
that
married
both
into
herself
them.
and Luke, they slept
But then were
naked,
slaughtered.
which is why Luke
So
didn't
it
have
didn't
any clothes
actually
on
branch
when he
off.
was shot. Again, this doesn't really make sense, does it? Because I thought Luke was in
But
his
the rest of
workshop.
the
He
royals
wasn't
still
in the bed when
survived.
she went to bed at
It's
7:15
sad,
p.m.
very sad. That's
So
such
again,
a sad
in the
story.
space
Oh,
of 11
by the
minutes,
way,
Luke.
if you've never, I don't know if it's still on Netflix. The Last Czars. It was a series on Netflix. Beautiful, lovely series. I've watched it at least 3 or 4 or 5 times. I love it. 10 out of 10 recommend. Very sad. But the moments of kindred they captured very beautifully. The moments of kindred connection and passion and love between Nikki and Alex. Just briefly between the midst of the story, but there was an emphasis on the love that they shared. So it wasn't common for royals to marry out of love, more so typically to strengthen kingdoms, to build allies for the kingdom, not because they liked each other. In a lot of cases, the kings and queens learned to tolerate each other or have some respect for each other sometimes. Sometimes they grew to love, but not organically. And I don't think truly. Nikki and Alex, they both had other options. They both had many options, but they didn't want other options. They wanted each other. So that's what they chose.
Came inside and went to bed, got
More
undressed and
specifically,
everything. It's just not plausible.
they had at first other people trying to pair them with others, and they said, no, we don't want other people. We want each other. So they did.
But another thing that was very, very suspicious about this is that officers found 2 vibrators and lubricant on the bed where Cheryl was supposedly sleeping. And the officers were like, this is not really adding up.
Oh, he
Maybe
was
they were
naked,
both
too.
naked because they were in the middle of a sex session. And that's why the lube was there, the vibrators, and that's why they were both naked. But also something else that I just can't stop thinking about is if Luke was sleeping naked, like, why is he all of a sudden in the doorway?
Yeah.
Like, how did he get over there? But
Yeah.
not just that. Cheryl claimed that after she shot her husband and realized that she had shot her husband, she apparently applied pressure to the wound straight away and apparently never stopped applying pressure
Well, how'd
to
she
the wound.
call?
And she apparently used her spare hand to dial 911. So then officers said, okay, so if that is true, how did you put clothes on? Because Cheryl, she said that she slept naked, but she wasn't naked when paramedics and officers arrived at the scene, but apparently she never stopped applying pressure to the wound.
When did you put your clothes on?
When I knew 911 was coming, I was holding that on him and putting clothes on at the same time. And then while I was on the phone with 911, I was like with one holding that with one hand and putting my clothes on with the other because I knew that the EMTs were about to be here and everybody was about to bust up in the house. I didn't know what was going to happen. Like I said, I'm holding this and I'm putting clothes on at the same time while I'm getting extra towels. And
Did you have to leave your bedroom to get the towels to come back in, or
I had to go into the bathroom to get the towels.
So she stopped applying
in your
pressure.
bedroom that you could have grabbed to use?
And at this point, it really does just seem like Cheryl
So her
is
story's changing.
making stuff up, because now Cheryl was saying that she was applying pressure to the wound with one hand. She had the phone on her shoulder, like between her shoulder and her ear. That's how she dialed 911 and was speaking to people. And then she was able to get dressed with the other hand that she had free. And the way she was describing it, I'm sorry, that's impossible. Like, you can't physically do that. To get dressed with one hand whilst your other hand is applying pressure to a gunshot wound, it's just not
I was
possible.
like, how are you?
But not just that, her whole demeanor
Put a shirt
just
on, like,
seemed
how the fuck?
off. And as well, when I was watching the footage of her being interviewed by officers, I couldn't help but think that she was purposely trying to draw attention to her cleavage. Now, I don't know if that's just me, but it definitely felt like she was maybe trying to distract the officers from her BS. But anyway, officers were very suspicious of what Cheryl was saying. So they take her down to the station for an interview, and there's also footage of this. And guess what? Cheryl's story changes once again.
Wow.
Because after officers were putting pressure on her about all of the inconsistencies, saying that they just couldn't believe that she didn't see Luke was standing there, this is when Cheryl admitted and said, yes, she did know that it was Luke. She did know that it was him standing there, and she knew it was him when she shot him, which is obviously a massive
So her
revelation.
whole story
But this is
changed.
when Cheryl comes up with a whole new story that she was acting in self-defense. Cheryl admitted that everything that she had said prior to that moment was a lie. She said that Luke eventually did come out of his workshop. They were in the bedroom and the two of them did start to have sex. But Cheryl said that during this sex, Luke became very aggressive. She said that he started choking her and slapping her very hard like he usually did, and that he ripped a pillow from underneath her legs and tried to pull her off the bed, but Cheryl wasn't budging.
He gets turned on and very aggressive when he gets turned on. He likes to slap real hard and leave marks on my breath. He ripped the pillow out from between my legs and started to pull me out of the bed.
And Luke was getting very angry at this. He stormed out of the room to get something, and when he came back to the room, he flung the bedroom door open, which scared Cheryl, and this is when Cheryl started shooting. However, Cheryl wanted to make it very clear to the officers that she didn't mean to actually hit him. Even though she was shooting at him, she didn't mean it. She was just trying to fire warning shots. She wanted to hit the wall and the door frame around him, scare him. She didn't actually want to hit him, but somehow she accidentally shot him.
They were both supposed to be warning shots. I mean, one was at the ceiling and one was at the wall on the other side. I wasn't trying to hit him.
And Cheryl claimed that she had fired the shots
but that was
from the
clever.
bed, and Luke was on the other side of the room. And this was the final version of events. This was the
You had
truth.
some jokes
This is
in here
what
tonight.
actually happened. But as you guessed it, she was lying once again because the physical evidence found at the crime scene just didn't add up to what she was saying. Because after an autopsy was carried
Send good
out,
vibes
this
to
is when they
chillin'.
found muzzle compressions on Luke's skin in quite a few places, which meant that Cheryl must have been
Prayers, good
pushing
vibes.
the gun into Luke's skin, which obviously
Have a
didn't
good
add
meal,
up with what she
too.
was saying, because apparently Cheryl fired the gun from the bed and Luke was on the other side of the room. And when they analysed the gunshot wound, they found that Luke was shot from point blank range. Again, this didn't add up because apparently Cheryl was on the bed. And that is because she was lying. She was never on the bed. She was stood up next to Luke and shot him execution style. And because she shot Luke like this, she would have gotten blood on herself, meaning that she took the time to have a shower before she dialed 911.
I was
Again,
wondering about
thought
that.
She was
She got
applying
dressed, but
pressure
what
to the
she
wound
was in her
constantly. So again, that's another lie. So after all of these lies, the police could no longer believe anything that Cheryl said. So Cheryl was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. And this was back in June of 2021. And unbelievably, Cheryl was now held in custody for the next 4 years until her trial finally started. And her first trial began in February of 2025, where she stuck to the same story of self-defense. She even took to the stand to testify herself, But the jury were deadlocked. They couldn't decide on a verdict, and it was declared a mistrial. So then 6 months later, in August of 2025, Cheryl's second trial began. The prosecution really leaned into the physical evidence, and the point-blank gunshot wound just didn't add up to the self-defense story. They also leaned into the fact that there was a lot of tension in this relationship due to the open marriage, saying that Cheryl had motive, that she had been angry at Luke for a long time leading up to this. But what was Cheryl's actual motive? We actually don't know. And I don't know if we will ever know what her true motive was. I mean, obviously Cheryl said that Luke was abusive to her. He was violent, aggressive, very angry. But these are just all claims that came after the murder, when she was trying to claim this BS self-defense story. I mean, obviously she was angry at Luke because Luke didn't like her sleeping with multiple men in the same week, and she was angry about that. Was that literally the motive? It's just really hard in this case to actually know what happened. And her saying all of these things about Luke just fit the narrative that she wanted to paint, and it is highly likely that it is just all lies. But not just that, jurors also watched the body cam footage of Cheryl, and apparently because Cheryl didn't show any emotion or tears, the jurors just didn't believe her. But not just that, the prosecution said that even if what Cheryl was saying is true, that it was self-defense, everything that she said about Luke is true, this still didn't justify using deadly force. And in the end, after a week of testimony, the jury unanimously found Cheryl guilty of first-degree murder. And on the same day, the judge gave her the sentence of life in prison. And given that Cheryl is unreliable, she definitely tells lies, it's hard to know what actually happened in today's case. I mean, obviously there's the physical evidence, and that's kind of all we can base it on. And from the physical evidence, Cheryl murdered Luke, and we won't know the true motive, but we do know that they had a very toxic and messy relationship that was starting to get filled with jealousy and a lot of suspicion, which led to deadly consequences, and it ended so tragically. And of course, Luke has children, which obviously they are adults, but they have still lost their father for a senseless reason. And Luke Coe will be remembered as a kind and caring man. He served honorably for years in the army, ran a successful business, loved spending Saturdays at the football and riding his motorcycle, but most of all, loved spending time with his children and family. He was taken far too soon. He was just 48 years old, and I really do wish Luke's family all of the best. I hope they're okay. So that brings us to the end of today's case. As always, let me know your thoughts, theories, and opinions, and don't forget to leave me your case suggestions in the comments down below, because
That's
I always want to know what you want to
crazy.
hear next. Thank you again to Myers Match for sponsoring today's video, and I'll see you all in my next
Check
one. Hey
out
everyone,
Mr.
welcome back.
Baldwin.
You're all doing well. Today we are covering
Hold on. Mr. Baldwin.
In South China,
Palate
there is this
cleanser.
100-kilometer-long wilderness trail called the MacLehose Trail. And at first glance, it just seems like a pretty normal, beautiful hiking trail until you begin to research what other hikers have said about
Hello,
what they
Rexy, how are you?
experienced out on that trail. Let's just say
This
some
is
of their
24 minutes
experiences
long,
are
so give me a little
genuinely
bit. I'm gonna finish my
terrifying.
nails.
Today, I'm going to tell you
And
one of
paint
those
them.
experiences.
Pointy
It's about
nails
this
is
man
right.
who goes solo hiking out on the MacLehose Trail, and he comes in contact with something that neither he nor anybody else can explain. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to mail the like button's very important, time-sensitive job applications for them. But instead of mailing them, just immediately put them in the trash. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story. On the morning of June 18th, 2016, a 45-year-old hiker named Zhang Shanpeng stood at the entrance to the famous MacLehose Wilderness Trail in southern China. He reached into his backpack, pulled out his phone, aimed it at the trail, and took a photo. Now, this trail was very beautiful, which is why he was taking a photo of it, but it also had a reputation for being a very dangerous trail. It was located in an area called the Sai-Kung Peninsula, and the trail itself was about 100 kilometers long, or 62 miles. And it went through forests, mountains, and streams, and the weather along this trail was very unpredictable, with sudden storms rolling in and just wreaking havoc. But Zhang was feeling very confident about this hike because he himself was an experienced hiker. While he maybe hadn't done this particular trail, he had hiked similar trails, and also the weather appeared to be holding up. However, before Zhang could even take a step onto this trail, the sky suddenly turned this dark greenish hue, and there was a loud thunderclap. I mean, basically instantly, there was this massive storm overhead. Zhang couldn't believe it. He just stood there watching as this unbelievable storm rolled in, wondering what he should do. I mean, again, he had not prepared for a storm. It was supposed to be nice out, but as he's kind of weighing whether or not he should just turn around and head back home because it was now too dangerous, the sky, just as suddenly as this all began, cleared. And it was suddenly beautiful and bright out, and the storm was gone. Now, at first, Zhang was not entirely convinced that the storm was now just magically gone. And so for a few minutes, he just stood there waiting in case it came back. But it didn't. The sky remained beautiful and clear. And so eventually, Zhang posted that photo he had taken of the trail, and he captioned it with something to the effect of, very strange weather out here, but I'm continuing my hike. And then after posting the photo, he put his phone away and began walking down the MacLehose Trail. At first, as Zhang headed off into the forest, he made good time. It was warm out, but not too hot, and his pack was fairly light. And also, the views were just stunning. Every time he came to a rise on the trail, he could look out and see the waves of the South China Sea, and the air was so clear and crisp. I mean, it was a really relaxing and beautiful place to be. Certainly a big change from what he was used to, which was the noise and crowds of the city. And so Zhang just continued on his hike,
Sharpen
stopping
her,
periodically
watching
to take
Queen
more
sharpen her
photos.
weapons.
But after about an hour of this hike, when things were still going really well,
Kitty cat.
Zhang reached this fairly steep incline on the trail, and he began walking up it. There had been past inclines on the trail, and he had been fine. But as he began maneuvering up this particular incline, he began to feel kind of woozy. In fact, more specifically, he began to feel like the air all around him was getting really hot, like somebody was turning up the temperature all around him. And so Zhang, he stopped as he was making his way up this incline to kind of catch his breath. But as he did that, the heat just got worse and worse. He became delirious. And as he was almost towards the top of this hill, it was like he just couldn't go any further. And the world began to spin all around him. And before long, he was tumbling to the ground and blacking out. The next thing Zhang became aware of was the feeling of grass pressed up against his cheek. He was laying on the trail. So he kind of opened his eyes, he sat up for a second, he was very disoriented. He didn't know how long he had been out for. He figured it was only a couple of minutes. But as he kind of got his bearings, the first thing he noticed is the sky was now totally dark. And when he had passed out, it was broad daylight. And so he's thinking, that can't possibly be true. I can't have been here for hours. That's not possible. And so he began to think to himself like, oh, I guess another storm has rolled in. That's why the sky is so dark. It's not nighttime. But then when he reached into his bag and pulled out his phone and saw the time and saw it was 8 o'clock at night, he realized there was no storm. It really is nighttime. He had been unconscious on this trail for apparently like 12 hours. And so as Zhang just stared at his phone in disbelief, his phone began to ring, and it was his wife. And so Zhang's thinking, oh my goodness, I'm supposed to be home right now. My wife is definitely worried about me. And so pretty quickly he kind of composed himself, even though, again, he has no idea what's happening here. And he answers the call, and as cheerful as he could, he told his wife that everything was fine. He was just running late, and he would be home soon. And so she said, okay. And then after Zhang hung up with her, he put his phone back in his backpack and pulled out a flashlight. And then he stood up and kind of checked himself over for cuts and scrapes and bruises. He had no idea what condition he was in here. But after checking himself over, he seemed okay. I mean, he was still very disoriented and confused, but physically he was okay. And then again, even though he doesn't understand what's happening here, he's just thinking, okay, I got to turn around, get back to the car, and get home as quickly as possible. So he slung his backpack, and with his flashlight out in front of him, he just started hoofing it back down the trail in the direction of his car. Now, as Zhang walked along, he was feeling very unsettled, but he kept telling himself that, independent of whatever's happened here, he was going to be home soon and everything was going to be fine. However, not long into his return trip towards his car, he began to get this unbelievably bad feeling, like something was just totally wrong here. And as he began having this feeling, he suddenly took stock of the fact that the forest he was in, which had been so alive with life and sound and everything, was
Quiet.
now
That's
completely
danger.
silent. No insects, no animals. The stream nearby was making no sound. It was like he was in a void.
The
It
tattoo
was
of what?
so eerie. And he stopped and just listened. And it was like the whole world was on mute. And so Zhang, who now is starting to feel scared, just began scanning his flashlight all around him, not even sure what he was looking for. But as he did, he had another realization. Suddenly, the area he was in did not look familiar at all. I mean, he had only walked maybe several paces away from where he had just fallen to the trail and passed out. But now, as he looked around, it was like he was in a totally different section of the forest. I mean, he looked back where he had fallen, and even in the grass where he would have been, it was untouched. There was no impression on the ground from where he would have been laying for 12 hours, like he'd been transported somewhere else without knowing it. Now, when Zhang spoke to his wife on the phone, he was very careful not to alarm her, even though he had sort of a growing sense of panic inside of him. But now, the whole situation was sort of out of hand. He really didn't understand what was happening, and he knew he needed help. And so he reached into his backpack to pull out his phone to call for help. Except when he reached into his bag, there was nothing there. His phone was gone, his supplies were gone, the bag was totally empty, even though literally minutes before it had been full. Like there was no way he just randomly lost this stuff. It had been there, and now it was gone. And so Jean desperately looked on the ground with his flashlight, and he walked back in the direction where he believed he had fallen, even though it didn't look like the same place. He's looking all over the place, like, maybe he did drop his stuff, but he didn't. It was just gone. And so now, really feeling scared, Jean just completely lost his composure and began screaming at the top of his lungs for help. But he heard nothing in response, just silence. Then not long after that, Zhang's head began to feel heavy again, and then he sank to the ground, put his head in the dirt, and he closed his eyes.
Like we're fugue, not broke, a fugue state. It's like a fugue state.
Hey guys, I have an incredible announcement. Something I know is going to absolutely, you want me to release more videos, and well, I and our whole team have been listening. So as always, make sure your notifications are on so you don't miss any of these amazing extra weekly uploads. It will not replace what you're already getting. This is all in addition to. It's good. Anyway, see you guys soon.
Back to the story.
When Jean woke up, it was bright out, and he also was now magically back at the original spot where he had passed out on that steep incline. And the first thing he did as soon as he came to is he reached into his bag, hoping that his phone and other supplies would have just materialized by now. But no, when he reached inside the bag, it was still empty. And so on the one hand, Zhang still is like, what is going on here? I don't understand what's happening. And then on the other, he was also becoming acutely aware that because he doesn't have his phone, he can't call for help. Like he's stuck out here. And so he's wondering, like, what is he going to do here? And then it dawns on him that, it's been at least several hours since he last spoke to his wife, and she was expecting him home the night before. And so by now, certainly, because he hasn't come home, she must have called the police. And so maybe there was already a search party out here looking for him. And so suddenly feeling kind of hopeful that that was actually happening, Zhang, despite his confusion and disorientation here, just scooped up his backpack, put it on, and began walking down the trail back in the direction towards his car. And as he walked, Zhang periodically would call out, hoping that, again, some searchers or other hikers were nearby who would hear him and come to his aid. But after hiking for over an hour, he still had not reached his car. The forest was still eerily silent, like everything was silent. He hadn't seen or heard anybody else. I mean, he's totally alone here. And so Zhang started to wonder if maybe his best bet was not to try to hike out of here, but instead to just stay put and wait for, hopefully, the search party, if there was one out there, to come find him, or maybe some other hiker to come find him. However, as he was considering this, he looked up ahead where the trail kind of turned, and he saw there was this pond, a pond he had not seen on the way in, but nonetheless, there was a pond basically right over there. And from his perspective, he could see kind of through the trees on the other side of the pond appeared to be a person. Zhang suddenly felt this enormous sense of relief. Here was the person who was going to help him and get him out of here. And so Zhang began walking towards this person, and as he did, he cupped his hands and he called out a hello to get this person's attention. Now, when Zhang did this, he believed this person would either, one, hear him, turn around and see what Zhang wanted, or two, they wouldn't hear him, and they would just continue to stand there with their back to him. But neither of those things happened. When Zhang called out this very hearty hello, this person just instantly began sprinting away from Zhang without even turning to look at him. They just began taking off into the trees. And Zhang, he's thinking like this is a crisis for him. He has no idea what's happening here. This is the first person he's seen. He needs them. And so instinctively, Zhang just took off running after them, calling out the whole time, trying to reassure them that he was not a threat. He didn't mean to scare them. He needs their help. And so he gets to the pond. He runs around the perimeter. He can still see this person running off into the woods. And Zhang, like he's so exhausted from the lack of water and food, he's not feeling his best, but somehow through adrenaline alone, he starts gaining on this person. And eventually he closes the distance on this person as they're weaving through the trees. And suddenly this person just stops. And they don't turn around and look at Zhang. They just stop in the middle of the woods. And Zhang, he almost barrels into them because he'd been running so quickly. And he just stops. And he's staring at the back of this person who still has not turned around to look at him at any point. And Zhang says to them, please, I need your help. And Zhang, he's panting. He's totally out of breath. And this person who's been running at top speed the whole time, they're not out of breath. They're not even moving. They're stationary, just with their back to Zhang. And suddenly, as Zhang is staring at this person, realizing that something feels off here, the person begins to turn around to look at him. And as they do, Zhang suddenly feels this incredible sense of dread. Like he chased this person down. He needs their help. But now that they're turning around to face him, something feels wrong. And he doesn't want to see him. Something's off here. And then the person fully turns around and looks at Zhang. And Zhang is suddenly so terrified of what he sees, he holds his breath and just stays there frozen to the spot, staring. He can't believe what he's looking at. This was not a person. This was some sort of shadowy figure with no face. And it was now staring directly at Zhang. And Zhang, again, he's so scared he can't move. He's holding his breath. He's just looking right back at them. And then suddenly this figure takes an aggressive step toward Zhang. And then another. And another, until suddenly they're inches away from Zhang. And Zhang is so terrified, he just closes his eyes, expecting to die at any second. And then when he opens his eyes, the figure's just gone. For about 5 minutes, Zhang just stood there, shaking in utter disbelief of what he had just experienced. I mean, this whole thing had been terrifying. But this specific interaction with this shadow figure was horrifying. And he had no idea how to process it. But at the same time, after a few minutes, Zhang's thinking to himself, I don't want to stay around here to try to figure out what's going on. I need to get out of here. And so Zhang, finally, after mustering the courage, he turns to start walking back towards the pond and back up to the trail. But when he turns around, the pond isn't there anymore. It's just this endless expanse of trees. The pond should have been right there, and it's gone. And also, when Zhang took off running after this shadow figure, it was daylight. And now it's darkness. It's total darkness. And so once again, Zhang has somehow gone to a new location and jumped through time, several hours at least, with no idea how that had even happened. And also, as he's having this realization that once again, it's like space-time has changed all around him, he starts to have that heaviness in his head. Things start to swim all around him. And before long, he's fallen to the ground and he's closing his eyes. When Zhang woke up again, it was now suddenly bright out. So again, more time has passed. He was not just passed out for a minute or two. It was several hours at least. And also, Zhang was now magically laying right next to the pond that had vanished the night before after this figure had showed up. And so at this point, Zhang is seriously thinking to himself that he must have lost his mind. That's what's happening here. He's gone insane. Or does he have some horrible head injury that's like causing hallucinations or something? Like, he doesn't know. But at the same time, all he can do at this point is just get up, try to get back to the trail, and try to get back to his car and get back home. That's all he can do. And so that's what he did. Zhang made his way back up to the trail and began walking down the trail in the direction that he believed was back towards his car. But after hiking for a while, things did not look any more familiar. It was like he was hiking down a brand new trail that he had never been on before. The forest continued to be eerily silent. And every time he called out for help, he got nothing in response. And then eventually, Zhang reached a section of the trail that kind of sloped down. And when he got there and he looked out ahead of him, he saw down below there was this huge cemetery. Now, Zhang had studied this entire area before coming out on this hike, and he knew there was no cemetery in the middle of the MacLehose Trail. Like, this can't be here. But remember, by this point, Zhang has seen and experienced things that he cannot understand. So he doesn't even know what's real and what's not anymore. And so as he's looking at the cemetery, he told himself, this has got to be some hallucination. This can't be here. But after walking down the hill and entering the cemetery, he reached out and touched the headstones, and they were very real. This cemetery, absolutely, for right now anyways, was real and right in front of him. And as he looked at the dates on these headstones, he could tell the cemetery was at least 200 years old. And so as Zhang is taking in this new information, he looks up and he sees a couple hundred meters away from him is a group of what appears to be people clustered around a grave. And for a moment, Zhang feels this unbelievable sense of relief. Here we go. There's some people here. You know, they're visiting their relatives. They can help me. But before Zhang ran over there and asked for their help, he watched one of them sort of turn their bodies, and they looked back at Zhang. And instantly, Zhang's body was overcome with terror once again. Because this person was not a person. This was a faceless, dark figure, just like the one he'd encountered near the pond. And there was this horrible sense that this thing was looking right at him. And so horrified, Zhang just turned and ran away. That night, Zhang found himself inexplicably back at that small pond. Didn't even know how he got there. But at this point, he wasn't questioning anything, because he didn't understand any of this. And as he was next to this pond, at some point, he had that heaviness come over him, and before long, he was on the ground, closing his eyes. However, this time, as he sort of slept or became unconscious, he entered into this sort of dream state, where he became aware that there were whispers all around him. Somebody or something was trying to communicate with him, and at first he couldn't tell what it was. But then he realized it was like the earth was talking to him. It was like the rocks and the nearby water were literally speaking to him. And for some reason, this felt sort of comforting, even though, again, he has no idea what to make of this. And then when Zhang woke up again, it was bright out, and all of a sudden Zhang was aware that the forest was alive again. There were sounds coming from everywhere, animals, insects, there was water sounds. It was like things were back to normal. And Zhang, he also had this incredible clear-headedness that he hadn't had for the past several days. It really was like things had gone back to normal. And so Zhang stood up, and he heard the sound of running water nearby, and he followed it to a stream. And so he decided he would just follow this stream right on out of the MacLehose Trail. Like, this was going to be the way he would get out of here. But after walking for hours and hours along the stream, he still had not found his way out. The sun was now directly overhead, beaming down on him. He was so hot, he was tired, he was moving slower and slower. His optimism was beginning to fade. And then he looked up, and just up ahead, he saw something that destroyed any of the optimism he had left. Because right up ahead were three more shadow figures with their back to him. It was like they were blocking his way towards freedom. And so as Zhang tensed up and prepared to turn and run back deeper into this trail that he was trying to escape, one of these shadow figures turned, and they looked directly at Zhang. And when they did, everything changed. Because Zhang instantly realized this was no shadow figure. This was a real person. They had a face, and they were calling out to him saying, "Hey, do you need any help?" And Zhang was so relieved, so happy. He couldn't even say anything back. He just fell to his knees and wept tears of joy. He was finally saved. It would turn out Zhang's wife had called the police on that first night when Zhang didn't come home. And so the whole time Zhang was out in the woods over these several days, there was actually a massive search party out there looking for him. However, none of the searchers claimed to have seen or heard Zhang at any point, and Zhang did not see or hear any of the searchers. Those people at the end who finally rescued him were just random hikers that happened to see him. But somehow, despite the fact that Zhang really could not have gone very far from his farm, he really didn't cover a huge distance on this trail when this whole experience began. Despite that, the searchers never heard or saw Zhang at any point, and Zhang obviously never heard or saw any of them. So they're basically in the exact same area, looking for each other, but nobody sees each other. After being discovered by those three real people on MacLehose Trail, Zhang was taken to a hospital where he was examined, and it was determined there was nothing physically wrong with him, other than he had not had much to eat or drink in several days. In fact, the official explanation for what happened to Zhang was just that he was really dehydrated. However, Zhang didn't buy that explanation. And when Zhang left the hospital and got back home, he immediately began digging into the history of the MacLehose Trail. And he would quickly discover that he was not the first person to have a totally wild, bizarre, borderline paranormal experience out on that trail. It would turn out the MacLehose Trail cuts across a geographic line called the Sai Kung Barrier. This is an area of the Sai Kung Peninsula that is generally considered to be a portal to other dimensions. And there have been enough people to have otherworldly experiences out on this trail that loosely match what Zhang claims to have seen and experienced, that they dubbed the area this trail is in as the Bermuda Triangle of South China. And adding even more intrigue to this area is the fact that several other very experienced hikers have gone missing along this trail, and they've had huge search parties sent out for them, but they were never found. Zhang would eventually share his story of what happened to him out on the trail in a 3,500-word essay that he posted on social media. He and many others believe that when he first fell and collapsed on the trail, that he actually fell through the Sai Kung Barrier and entered another dimension. That for those days that he was wandering around having no idea what was happening to him, that he wasn't really in this dimension anymore. He was somewhere else. Zhang believed the only reason he was able to escape this other dimension was because on his final night in this other place, he began to hear the sounds of the rocks and the water whispering to him. He said the only reason he was able to hear that was because he had sort of accepted his fate, that here he was in this totally strange world that he couldn't understand and didn't have any real expectation to escape from. And it was that sort of resignation that he allowed himself to feel that kind of put him in touch with this dimension, and he believes that's what ultimately allowed him to come back home. Despite those who doubt him, Zhang stands by his version of events. While his time on the trail did not cause him any physical harm, to this day, he is still haunted by it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of today's episode in the comments. And remember, we have hundreds of videos for you to binge right now. But if you're looking for a recommendation from me of that one video that's worth your time, well,
it is 1:23 here on the East Coast. 1:22:23. And I'm going to bid you adieu for the night. Please have sweet dreams, grand rising, and happy in between for those on the interim. Sending lots of love. I will go back up and check your comments. Thank you. Good night. Sweet dreams. Namaste. Catch you on the next one. I love you guys.